their setups in dry weather expected for the race on Sunday. Saturday's forecast is better news though, with the good news for those teams being Saturday's running should be dry all day with something like a chance of 50% of precipitation. That means that paired with a forecast of high temperatures of 28 degrees Celsius, the track should be in perfect condition for FP3 and Saturday's qualifying session. Moving on to Sunday, expect even more sun and even less rain, with just a 10% chance of precipitation for the Sunday event in Suzuka. That means that any team hoping to use the chaos of wet weather running to their advantage will be disappointed this year, having to rely instead on the more traditional method of having a fast car, and having two fast drivers throughout that race. Certainly going to be looking forward to this race in Singapore this weekend. I love this circuit. It's one of my absolute favourites. It's going to be my birthday as well on Friday, so it's going to be an exciting Grand Prix race weekend. Do be sure to join us for that. Also saying Red Bull should save money and put a young guy beside Max, looking at how well Piastri is doing at the moment. Certainly, I mean, there are so many drivers who could be in contention for multiple seats on the grid at the moment. There is a lot of seats available in 2026 and 2025 as well, so that is really going to be a big talking point next season and throughout the rest of the season. But thank you very much to all of you who have joined me for this daily Formula 1 news video. It's been great to have all of you guys in the comment section. I've been Reece for you guys here today. Thank you very much for joining me here on Forever Motorsports. Do be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports here for another Formula 1 daily news video. Actually today I've changed the title of the video to a motorsport news video because we actually have some more news, not just about Formula 1 but also about some MotoGP a little bit later in the video, of course. But to start with the title of our video, about Lewis Hamilton with his backlash as Formula 1 star told he is in the wrong. David Coulthard believes Lewis Hamilton got it wrong with his recent comments on Max Verstappen. The Mercedes star suggested his Red Bull rival had it easier during his time in the sport due to the quality of his teammates. But Coulthard has now condemned Hamilton and believes he's in the wrong for two reasons. In an interview with Formula1.com, the 52-year-old said, I know Lewis had made a comment that he does not have tough teammates, speaking about Max Verstappen, of course. First of all, that's not the case, and second of all, it's not actually about your teammate. It is about who your competitors are, and the biggest competitor so far has been Lewis. And they have been unbelievable in the way they have gone wheel to wheel and performed, and really delivered some great results. Hamilton upset Red Bull fans by saying his own teammates were far superior to Verstappen's, citing the likes of Nico Rosberg and Jenson Button as examples. When I qualified half a second, 6/10 ahead of Valtteri Bottas, they didn't say the same things as they said today with Max qualifying 6/10 ahead of Sergio Perez, Hamilton said. It's blown up much more. In my personal opinion, Valtteri and all of my teammates have been stronger than the teammates Max Verstappen has had. Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso, George Russell, Valtteri Bottas, and Nico Rosberg, I've had so many, said Hamilton. These guys have been very strong, very strong, very consistent, and Max has not raced against anyone like this. Hamilton's comments also sparked a response from Verstappen himself, and maybe the 25-year-old hit back by accusing the Mercedes star of being jealous. Maybe he's a little bit jealous of our current success, he said before the Italian Grand Prix earlier this month. I don't know why he said that. Maybe he thinks there's something to win or defend with comments like that, but for me, it doesn't matter at all. Meanwhile, Hamilton has faced calls to be stripped of the Formula 1 title he won back in 2008. Felipe Massa is actively looking to get the result of that season overturned, with the Brazilian's lawyers taking action at the moment. Hamilton, however, didn't appear fazed when quizzed last week, saying, if that's the direction Felipe wants to go in, that's his decision. But I prefer not to focus on the past, he stated. Very interesting to see the differences between Felipe Massa and Lewis Hamilton, who, of course, has now the opportunity to take back that 2021 World Championship if Felipe Massa does win his championship. Now, It will be very interesting to see the outcome of that lawsuit and whether Hamilton will go ahead and take action then over the 2021 World Championship. I doubt it, but we'll have to wait and see what they decide to go and do. But also very interesting to see what David Coulthard has said in response to Lewis Hamilton's calls of Verstappen's teammates not being as strong as his in the past. Yeah, interesting to see, but nonetheless, we'll carry on with this news article, carrying on from another one going on about Lance Stroll declaring himself fit for the Japanese Grand Prix after his Singapore crash. The Aston Martin driver did not start the Marina Bay race after a heavy incident in qualifying. Lance Stroll has now declared himself fit though for the Japanese Grand Prix after suggestions he would miss the Suzuka race following his Singapore accident. Stroll sat out at the race in Marina Bay after crashing heavily at the final corner in qualifying, destroying his Aston Martin 23 race car. In what was a mutual decision with the team, Stroll, who was feeling very sore following the high G impact post the first did not start of his Formula 1 career, or posted the first did not start of his Formula 1 career. The Canadian passed all of the FIA's concussion checks at the time, but there were doubts on social media leading up to the Suzuka weekend that Stroll would not take part, but he has posted on Twitter that he is ready to race in what will be his 5th Japanese Grand Prix. Team boss Mike Crack has said, and was also adamant, that Stroll would be fine to race and that he had no concerns about him. Lance is very strong. He's much stronger than you think, Crack told media. You've seen him in the TV pen after the accident, so I'm not concerned that he will be there in Suzuka. He'll be in the car and he'll be very fast, he concluded. Glad to see that Lance Stroll is fine after that accident, and we'll have to wait and see what he is able to do in Suzuka come the next time out. Moving on to the next article, why the new Flexi-floor suspicions have kicked off in Formula 1. The introduction of a new Flexi-wing technical directive at the Singapore Grand Prix was always going to trigger interest if there was any shuffling of Formula 1's pecking order. So it was a little wonder that Red Bull's team boss Christian Horner, whose team had been dominant in Formula 1 in this season up until now, have found themselves having to reportedly dismiss any suggestions that his squad's struggles were related to the new FIA stipulations over flexi-wings. Backing up his argument in that fact, with a flexi-wing estimated to be only worth up to about 1/10 of a second around Singapore, the scale of Red Bull's pace drop pointed to other factors being at play, as the RB19 proved itself difficult to get into the right setup window around the Marina Bay circuit. Plus, according to the consensus in the paddock, the focus of the FIA push on flexi-wings was not in fact Red Bull, as it was others who had been perhaps pushing the boundaries in this area far more. While it was easy to link a potential shuffling in the order in Singapore, some teams looked better than normal. Others had drifted back with the timing of the much talked about Flexi-wing technical directive. It was actually another FIA document that had gone under the radar in recent weeks, which served to fuel bigger intrigue for engineers. Plank games. At the same time the FIA introduced its technical directive on flexi-wings in late August, motorsport.com had learned that it had also sent out a revision to the famous Technical Directive 39 that was introduced at the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix, which had originally been aimed at bringing an end to porpoising. One of the factors to trigger car porpoising was suspected to be teams playing around with flexible floors, which is why from last year fresh stipulations came in about the stiffness of floors and the measurements of planks. The wildest theories at the time pointed to teams running removable skid block designs that disappeared into the plank area, so did not get worn when the car ran close to the ground, and therefore did not wear down beyond the allowed tolerances. This was possible to do because, at the time, only a small section of the skid block was measured to check on compliance post-race. However, to stamp out the practice, the FIA declared that measurements would be taken around 75% of the skid block radius, effectively preventing small areas getting protected. So, very interesting to see that these little technical directives have now, focused in on these little loopholes that teams have been able to rein in on. As we see Orville Clisby, one of our new regulars in the channel, saying competition would have been tough during his karting years. Certainly, I mean, he had a lot of younger drivers. He had Lando Norris. I think he also had, I'm trying to think, Charles Leclerc as well. He also had Esteban Ocon when he was in his karting days. So he had a lot of competition when he was younger, did Max Verstappen. And then there is his esports endeavors, says Orville. Yes, certainly he is continuing in his esports as well. Yeah, a lot of different formats where Max Verstappen is focusing on, not only on Formula 1, but also on other areas. Continuing though with this article, it says here, the matter seems to have gone away, but during 2023 it has emerged that the teams have still been playing around in this area and continue to push the limits with floor flexibility. It is such a key performance differentiator. The focus of this latest push appears to suggest that the teams have shifted their focus away from the skid block moving to it now being the plank, that it is the movable component, as teams exploit a tolerance within the rules that allows the plank to slightly deflect. One of the new articles in the technical regulations state that bodywork within the RV plank may deflect no more than 2 mm at the two holes in the plank at a certain measurement, and no more than 2 mm at the rearmost hole when the car without the driver is supported at these positions, for testing of course. It is suggested that this 2 mm tolerance has been viewed not as a limitation by some teams, but as an opportunity to get away with some extra flexibility to help with performance gains. One theory that emerged in Singapore was that this could help allow the plank and the floor to get sucked down at high speed, thanks to this flexibility delivering a nice downforce boost, while the skid block remained static and out of the way, so were at no risk of being worn. The skid blocks were in effect disappearing, just like they were in 2022. But while back then they were being moved, this time it was the plank around it that was flexible. So a lot of information here, and this article goes on forever, but it just shows how these teams keep iterating and designing to get around these technical directives and try and find any little loophole in the rules. And certainly that is why these new technical directives have been introduced in Singapore, to stop these teams from just trying to get any little advantage over other teams out there. But it has been seen now that they are looking to close these loopholes. Maybe we will see some teams just getting a little bit closer than others, as now an F1 era expert reveals whether the Red Bull nightmare will continue in Suzuka. Having undeniably established their dominance in the initial 15 races of 2023 in an unprecedented manner, Red Bull experienced one of the most lackluster weekends in terms of pace in nearly 3 years in Singapore, and it's fair to ponder will the same issues blight them at this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. Interestingly, during this past weekend, the FIA introduced a technical directive with the intention of curbing flexible wings. Did these flexible wings really affect Red Bull? In case you're not familiar with the term, flexible wings refer to the wings that undergo deformation under specific loads, with the primary load being downforce. The inherent advantage of such wings lies in their ability to deform at high speeds, reducing the frontal area exposed to aerodynamic drag, consequently providing an advantage in straight line speed. To assess whether Red Bull's end of straight performance has been affected, let's examine some metrics and graphics compared to Hungary. We can look in these graphics that the straight line speed hasn't necessarily been from this comparison, it can be reasonably inferred that the presence of flexible wings has indeed had an impact on Red Bull's performance. However, looking at quotes from Perez and Verstappen, the issue seems to be deeper. It hasn't been a great weekend for us so far. Qualifying was hectic, said the Dutchman to the media. I couldn't brake late and hard because I would bottom out. I've also been struggling with low-speed corners. We've just had no rear support. Perez could only agree with his teammate. We've made a lot of changes to the car this weekend, but nothing really worked. We need to understand it, said the Mexican to the media. It's been tough because we've been making a few changes here and there, but nothing seems to transform the balance. It's been tricky out there with the amount of sliding we've been having, and the balance is changing corner to corner. The thing we're struggling the most with, though, is the ride, and it's made it difficult here and made the ride even worse, the changes that we've introduced. Since the flexible wings have been dealt with primarily and deal with primarily straight line performance, it couldn't have made this drastic of an effect on car balance and cornering performance for the Red Bull cars. They did also notably bring new floors to this race weekend and did change them right before qualifying because they didn't necessarily like the way that the cars were handling with these new floors. So they didn't necessarily get the performance correct and the setup correct with these new floors for qualifying, which is possibly why they really did struggle in their qualifying trim and their qualifying setup. So very interesting to see why these Red Bulls have been struggling. And Joseph saying Max was a little bit more raw and had to refine his skills, so he had a lot more crashes in his early career. I certainly agree with you on that. He did take a little bit of time to get up to speed to certainly where he is now with his consistency and his just absolute speed that he does have. I agree that he did have to refine himself and his driving style, and now that he is a force to reckon with when he does have the car underneath him. Of course, you can say that it is down to the car that he is so strong nowadays, but I think it's hand in hand with driver and car just working perfectly together. And unfortunately in Singapore, we just saw that Max Verstappen didn't have the right car underneath him, and he did struggle quite a bit. Moving on though to the next article, the signs that suggest an immediate Red Bull resurgence in Formula One's Japanese Grand Prix. So one article says that they may struggle, another one saying that they may be strong yet again. Yeah, they want me to subscribe for that though, so we won't carry on for that. But we'll just read a little bit about it. They will, as Red Bull's RB19's dominance has gone for this 2023 season, it will not go down unique in Formula One's history as the first car to be taken to every single campaign to race win. Carlos Sainz's victory in the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix was utterly brilliant. He and Ferrari nailed every important call and stressful moment, backed up beautifully by Charles Leclerc, who went on to back up his teammate Carlos Sainz and acted as a rear gunner in that strategy, just holding off the two Mercs in the later stages of the race. And then, of course, he did get overtaken when they were on those new tyres. But yeah, very, very interesting to see that Red Bull might be a bit stronger if they do bounce back from Singapore. I mean, I think that once they do get that strategy correct and have the right setup for that race, they may just be able to bounce back properly. Hopefully we do see them bouncing back and we have a lot more competition. Another article now saying bad news for Logan Sargeant after reports emerge of Williams Formula One negotiations for weeks. Of Williams negotiating for weeks with Aston Martin reserve driver Felipe Drugovich for a 2024 drive. There are several reports suggesting that Aston Martin reserve driver Felipe Drugovich could be a possible replacement for Logan Sargeant at Williams. This could be alarming news for the American rookie, as he now has limited time to prove his worth and keep his seat in Formula One. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula One season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Even though team principal James Vowles has praised Sargeant and wants to support the rookie, it is clear that the driver needs to step up his performance if he wants to stay in the sport. Even though his teammate Alex Albon is a much more experienced driver than him, Sargeant's pace has been nowhere near that of the Thai drivers. As the 2023 F1 season gradually comes to a close, the driver market is heating up, with the new drivers hungrily awaiting for an F1 seat, for those who are not performing or up to par. According to Blick, one of those drivers is Aston Martin's reserve driver Felipe Drugovich. The Brazilian-Italian driver has an impressive record of racing in single-seater racing series. He has won in Formula 2000 Euro Formula, Spanish Formula 3 and Formula 2. Although Formula 1 Haas driver Mick Schumacher was also a prime candidate for a return with Williams, the doors of an opportunity have nearly closed on him, and has reportedly been contacted by Alpine's World Endurance Championship team. Hence, Drugovich is the next candidate for the British team. Only time will tell whether Logan Sargeant will be able to prove his worth and keep his seat, or if Williams will start to look at the driver market for a new race driver. Williams' team principal wants to support Logan Sargeant instead of punishing him. Despite many rumours and reports of Logan Sargeant's seat being in danger, Williams' team principal James Vowles is willing to support the American rookie. Vowles has stated that Logan Sargeant is well aware of his learning curve and how he needs to make it steeper. Furthermore, he explained how Williams should help him along in his career path rather than punish him for his poor performances. The pace of learning has to increase now. He's well aware of that, and I think he's already very mature for his age. He knows he has a long career ahead of him, and he's in charge of that. Our job is to help him along the way, not punish him, James Vowles told the media. This clearly shows that Williams' team principal still has his arms around Logan Sargeant, and it's also very much solidifying that the rookie will most likely stay with the British team until 2024. Well, if he doesn't, and if he continues to crash like he did in Singapore, I think then maybe the team will start to look at other competitors to fill that seat in 2024, and a keen candidate for that seat will certainly be Felipe Drugovich, as well as Mick Schumacher, who I'd love to certainly see in that seat for 2024 and onwards. I think Mick needs to be given another opportunity in a race seat in Formula 1, but it's difficult at the moment with so many people being available for a race seat at the moment. As AlphaTauri set to announce drivers, as Williams are told to approach Lawson in another Formula 1 news roundup. It's been another busy day of Formula 1 news as fallout continues from the Singapore Grand Prix and attention begins to turn to Japan this weekend. AlphaTauri are in the headlines for reportedly deciding upon their 2024 lineup, though that has yet to be confirmed, and pungent pundit opinions from the weekend still hangs in the air from a frantic Singapore Grand Prix. Let's dive into what AlphaTauri reportedly are set to do. AlphaTauri are reportedly set to retain Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo. A report from German outlet Automotor and Sport claims that Yuki Tsunoda has agreed to stay on at AlphaTauri for the 2024 season, and he could have his new deal announced at his home race in Suzuka this weekend. Tsunoda stood out alongside Nick de Vries earlier this season, while he has been significantly more challenged alongside Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson in more recent races. Also claimed, AlphaTauri are set to hold on to Ricciardo for next season, while the Australian still sits on the sidelines for now as he recovers from a broken hand. Planet F1 has approached AlphaTauri for comments, but has not yet received a response from them. Brundle has also said, though, that AlphaTauri are a no-show. Well, AlphaTauri's no-show was a sporting disappointment when they didn't show to their FIA stewards after the impeding incident between Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen. While Max Verstappen was handed a reprimand for impeding Tsunoda at the Singapore Grand Prix, no AlphaTauri representative was required to be at the FIA hearing over the matter. Despite this lack of requirement from the governing body, this was led to questions about the two Red Bull outfits working alongside each other to potentially protect the World Championship's leaders' interests. Quite how Max Verstappen didn't also get a penalty for impeding Yuki Tsunoda in qualifying when considering other penalties applied this season was a great surprise to many in the paddock, which I confidently predict includes the team and driver in question, Brundle wrote in his Sky Sports column. That Tsunoda's AlphaTauri team didn't send a representative to the hearing, albeit as the junior Red Bull team, was a sporting disappointment to me. Very interesting to hear that from Martin Brundle, and Williams have now been told as well to swoop in for Liam Lawson if he doesn't get picked up by AlphaTauri for a race seat. Former Formula 1 driver Karun Chandhok believes current AlphaTauri substitute Liam Lawson is making a fine impression in Formula 1, and Williams should be considering him for a 2024 seat. Only the AlphaTauri seats and one Williams drive remain uncontracted for next year. And if Lawson is one to miss out in the Red Bull Junior musical chairs, former Lotus and HRT driver Chandhok thinks his best performances have been more than worthy for a drive at Williams next year, based on what he has done in such a short space of time. You've got to have the conversation, haven't you? Chandhok said on Sky Sports. Because, Albon's outqualified Sargeant on every occasion. He has scored all the points so far for Williams. If you are Williams, you should be swapping around, and Liam Lawson has put himself on the market in a very good way. I certainly believe that Liam Lawson should be on the driver market for any other team that has a seat available for the next season, or even in the next 2 seasons in the future, because I think Liam Lawson is certainly a hot commodity for the future in Formula 1. We'll have to wait and see what does happen in the future, but very interesting to see what is happening at the moment. Moving on to another article here, Formula 1 fans slam Sergio Perez as he had made a horrible move on Yuki Tsunoda in the race. Sergio Perez has come under fire from fans for his collision with Yuki Tsunoda, which ended his race in Singapore. Formula 1 fans have been hitting out at Red Bull driver Sergio Perez for crashing into Yuki Tsunoda after the race start of the Singapore Grand Prix. The damage sustained from the collision caused the Japanese driver to retire from the race on the second lap. Tsunoda reported to the AlphaTauri team that he had suffered from a puncture before he stopped the car off the track. Luckily for the rest of the grid, he was not able to get the car behind the race. Well, luckily for the rest of the grid, he was able to get the car behind the race barrier, so a safety car or red flag was not needed. However, he was shocked. However, what has shocked fans is that Perez was not investigated by the stewards for the move. Onboard footage has been released to social medias, and fans have been taking the opportunity to hit out at the Mexican driver for the disgusting move. Perez taking Yuki out of the race, but no investigation or event it being shown on Sky F1 coverage. Red Bull running the FIA and the media, said one fan on social media there. Certainly a lot of fans getting quite upset for the fact that Sergio Perez was not investigated for his horrific move on Yuki Tsunoda there in the race. Hopefully, we do get more of those moves being investigated after the race, as that is just horrific. We don't want to see drivers being taken out in the first lap like that from drivers like Sergio Perez. And I mean, we've seen cleaner racing from Sergio in the past. We don't expect him to race like this, and hopefully we don't see it again. As I do see, we have a whole bunch of people commenting. We have Mark there in the comments, Joseph, and Orville, of course. Thank you very much for all of you for watching. Please do be sure to comment there in the comment section if you haven't yet. And do be sure to vote in our poll asking if you think Max has had tough competition throughout his racing career. Currently, 75% of you think he has had tough competition throughout his career. Moving on to our next article, and the reason why it's motorsport news here today, not Formula 1 news. MotoGP's first Indian Grand Prix has been hit by visa chaos, as some teams and MotoGP's first Indian Grand Prix has been hit by visa chaos, as some teams and riders are unable to fly. Many MotoGP paddock personnel and riders, including Marc Marquez, are currently grounded, having been unable to board flights bound for India due to ongoing visa issues. This weekend is supposed to mark the inaugural MotoGP round in India at the former Formula 1 venue in Bud International Circuit. The event has already faced numerous bouts of uncertainty, as requested track works were only recently finished, and the homologation process has yet to be finalised. Aprilia's Alex Espargaro told motorsport.com recently that riders are standing united on the subject of track safety and are due to inspect it themselves on Thursday, before voting on whether or not to race. Most of the paddock was meant to fly to India on Tuesday, but many have been turned away from flights having not received the necessary visa. The factory Honda squad and both of its riders, including 8-time world champion Marquez, are among the list. Marquez posted on social media saying, "Flight delayed due to a lack of visa for India, so we're going to pedal for a little while," referring to a picture of himself on his mountain bike. He now hopes to be able to board a flight to India on Wednesday, assuming his visa arrives. Some teams, such as Ducati and Aprilia, have been able to travel, while several others have not. Although confusion has taken over the scene, those affected point the finger at various agencies in charge of making the relevant arrangements, both European and Indian. Honda has been forced to cancel a factory visit, with its riders in India scheduled for Wednesday, while numerous members of the media and photographers have missed flights due to their not getting visas on time. The International Road Race Teams Association has promised to reimburse outfits who have had to pay for their own flights to be changed. At this stage, it is hoped that everyone will be able to land in Delhi by Thursday, at the absolute latest, to allow the event to run as scheduled. However, the proposal to curtail Friday's running, either partially or fully, is on the table depending on how the visa situation unfolds. This was a measure put in place last year at the Argentinian Grand Prix when technical measures and issues with cargo planes meant that freight arrived to Termas de Rio Hondo late. Friday's running was cancelled as a result of this. An update from the Indian GP organization is expected soon. Interesting to see what is happening there in the Moto GP, but ahead of this Indian Grand Prix. Hopefully all of the teams and the riders will be able to make it to the circuit before Thursday so that running can go ahead as entailed. We'll follow on with that, but moving on to our final two little bits of information before we sign off here. Mercedes have brought new front wings to this new Japanese Grand Prix, or to the Japanese Grand Prix ahead of this weekend. Just some pictures have been released, not any articles, but some pictures have been released from some spy photographers with some new updated front wings from Mercedes. Maybe this is due to those technical regulations being brought in, and they are just making sure that they're safe in terms of that. And then the last one, just talking a little bit about the fact that it is bucketing it down with rain in Suzuka today. So we might get some rain there this race weekend. We'll have to wait and see what does happen. But at the moment, it is certainly pouring it down in Suzuka. We'll have to wait and see what does happen throughout the rest of this race weekend. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a very exciting one, very early for us here in South Africa, but we certainly hope that all of you will join us in the stream. I've been Reece here though on Forever Motorsports. Thank you very much for joining me for my daily Formula 1 news video. I'm sure that all of you have enjoyed it. Please do be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have, and I will be sure to join you tomorrow for another daily news video. I've been Reece though. Thank you very much for joining me. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only 2 FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987, The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. The circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content, and we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Reece, and here with some breaking news today, Oscar Piastri has extended his contract with McLaren till the end of the 2026 season. McLaren has extended rookie Oscar Piastri's contract through the end of 2026. The deal will keep Piastri and Lando Norris together as teammates for at least 2 more years, with the latter's contract ending in 2025. Piastri has impressed in his first Formula 1 season so far, scoring 42 points and finishing second in the sprint race at the Belgium Grand Prix. The Australian, considered one of the brightest young talents in racing, joined McLaren after a lengthy legal battle between the British team and Alpine, who had initially had him to their driver academy. Piastri won both the Formula 3 and Formula 2 championships before stepping up to Formula 1. His first McLaren deal was multi-year, believed to be until the end of 2024, and McLaren has ensured his long-term future will be with the team. The length of Piastri's deal is significant, as it takes him into Formula 1's next planned rule change in 2026, suggesting that the Australian has faith that they can deliver a championship-caliber car under the new regulations. Team boss Andrea Stella has said it is fantastic to confirm that Oscar has signed a multi-year extension with the team. Oscar is an asset to McLaren and consistently impresses with his performance, work ethic, and attitude, so it was an easy decision for the team to make. He has already proved pivotal to the team, so it is brilliant to have his vote of confidence as we push to win championships again in the future. I look forward to seeing him develop with us as we continue this journey together. McLaren has shown huge improvements from a competitive standpoint this season, and company CEO Zak Brown hopes the team can be challenging Red Bull by 2025. Norris has yet to confirm what his longer-term future looks like, and we certainly expect him to possibly extend his contract with McLaren into the long-term future, or move to Red Bull, who certainly have shown a lot of interest in Lando Norris. But we are really excited to see that Oscar Piastri has extended his contract with McLaren to the future. And I'm certainly very excited to see what the rookie Oscar Piastri can do with his Formula 1 future. Thank you very much though for joining me here today for this breaking news. I have been Reece here on Forever Motorsports. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for another daily news video here on this channel. Glad to see that we have a few of you waiting already for this video to get started, and a few of you have already voted in that poll that we currently have running. Which rookie are you supporting for the Japanese Grand Prix? Currently it is split between Piastri, Sargeant and Lawson, or equally with 33% on each of those drivers. So we'll move onto our first article of the day. Fernando Alonso is less worried over the Singapore Grand Prix slump after his suspension discovery. Fernando Alonso says he is less worried about Aston Martin's lack of pace in Formula 1's Singapore Grand Prix after discovering how much damage suspension he had on his car. Or how much suspension damage he had on his car, The Spaniard labelled his Aston Martin 23 as undrivable after the race at the Marina Bay circuit last weekend, as he struggled to find any performance throughout the Sunday's Grand Prix. It was only after the Grand Prix, however, that Aston Martin realised the extent to which Alonso's performance had been hit by a damaged front suspension shroud, which had come loose on lap 2 and rotated side-on to disturb the car's aerodynamics. Speaking ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix, Alonso did not offer any specific details about how much lap time the problem cost him, but says it explained why things looked so bad. Definitely it was not helping us, said the Spaniard. We know how much it affected us, and we will not share it, but it was significant. So I'm a little bit less worried about the performance in Singapore after knowing the damage that we had. The pace was not the real one in the race, and without that, maybe we could have followed the train of leaders and have less problems with the Alpine and Sergio Perez. Then everything would have changed after that. When you're not fast, you get a lot of issues. One possibility for the cause of the suspension issue was Alonso running over the debris from Yuki Tsunoda's opening crash with Sergio Perez. Alonso would not reveal exactly what happened. It's a private thing, he said. Alonso's struggles at the Singapore Grand Prix, where he eventually finished 15th, came in the wake of an equally difficult time at the Italian Grand Prix, where he ended up in 9th. Those results are a far cry from the form that Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso showed at the start of the season, where it began the campaign as Red Bull's main challenger. But despite having just one podium finish since the Canadian Grand Prix with a second place at Zandvoort, Alonso is clear that there is no sense of frustration or disappointment about the pace Aston Martin find itself in right now. Not at all, he said. I'm extremely happy with the project. Also, in difficult races like Singapore or Monza, all our debriefs, all our meetings with the factory, they are very productive. It is the weekends that we learn more in the season. So the steps that we plan ahead for the future, or for next year when we come to those races, are just huge. I never saw that kind of scale in terms of ideas and things on the table. So the motivation that the team has to become a top team and the resources and determination is just outstanding. I am very happy. He added, we have to accept that everyone here in Formula 1 has a very high level. Everyone has great designers, great teams, wind tunnels, all these kinds of things. When we think about our wind tunnel that we have built and will be ready next year, and we have high hopes, most of the teams, that they have that wind tunnel already for a few years, so we just level their capacity. We're just now down, so this is something we need to have our feet on the ground for as well. So glad to see that Fernando Alonso is still looking towards this next weekend in Japan with high hopes that their Aston Martin car can perform quite well at a more traditional circuit. I'm certainly hoping to see that Aston Martin being able to do quite a lot better, but we'll have to wait and see what the future holds for Aston Martin's race car. How can Red Bull secure the 2023 Formula 1 Constructors' Championship at the Japanese Grand Prix? That is the topic of our next video here. Red Bull are very close to securing their 6th Constructors' Championship at this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. Here's how they can do it. Red Bull are on the cusp of wrapping up another F1 Constructors' Championship. This weekend became their first significant chance after they failed to do so in Singapore. Red Bull's F1 2023 unbeaten streak finally ended last weekend as Carlos Sainz secured Ferrari's first win in over 1 year. Max Verstappen, who cannot win the title until Qatar in 2 weeks, only managed 5th after qualifying outside of the top 10. However, Red Bull are very likely to secure the Formula 1 Constructors' Championship this weekend. Here's what they will need to do. Red Bull are 308 points ahead of Mercedes and Ferrari by 332 points. If they leave Suzuka with a 309-point lead or more, then they will win the 2023 Constructors' Championship. Red Bull must outscore Mercedes by at least 1 point at the Japanese Grand Prix. They must also ensure Ferrari don't outscore them by 24 points or more. Red Bull have only been outscored by Mercedes at one event this year, which was of course last weekend out in Singapore. On the other hand, Ferrari haven't outscored them by 24 points or more since Bahrain last year. So the chances for Red Bull to take that Constructors' Championship this weekend are really high and will pretty much only be taken away from them if they have a double DNF this weekend, which is highly unlikely, but off the back of last weekend, it's certainly not impossible. As I see, we have F1 edits in the comment section saying hello. Thank you very much for joining us and commenting in the comment section now. As we also see Mark saying smash that like button. Please do be sure to go and smash that like button. Also him saying no wonder why Alonso didn't do that well on the weekend. I see a few more of you guys have also voted in our poll at the moment. Piastri with 33%, Sargeant with 22%, and Liam Lawson with 44% of who of you are supporting for the Japanese Grand Prix. Yeah, I'm certainly hoping to see Liam Lawson having another good weekend. We could see, though, the seat for that second AlphaTauri seat being confirmed this race weekend in Suzuka as well, as there's a lot of rumours going around about that at the moment. Moving on, though, to our next article, Hamilton says something is up if Red Bull doesn't win the Japanese Grand Prix by 30 seconds or more. Lewis Hamilton expects Red Bull to resume its dominance at the Japanese Grand Prix, suggesting something would be amiss if it did not win Suzuka's Formula 1 race handsomely. Red Bull suffered a mysterious lack of performance at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, which led to both drivers dropping out of qualifying in the second phase, as neither Max Verstappen nor Sergio Perez could improve on their final Q2 laps. Perez had stated that Suzuka should be one of the best circuits for the RB19 package, which has been an exceptionally strong car in corners that require high-speed downforce and fast changes of direction. Adding to Perez's comments, Hamilton ladled praise on Red Bull's current car and suggested that it should be 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field in race trim. I would think that if they're not 30 seconds ahead, like they have been in the past, then something's up, said Hamilton. As Checo said, it's obviously a difficult weekend in the last one, but that car should be phenomenal here. They've been phenomenal all year long. They've aced pretty much every circuit. It's going to be great to watch that car in general. Normally you would come here and it's beautiful to watch the laps that they do. The whole team and the drivers are doing an amazing job with the package they have. It'll be interesting to see how the weekend goes. I hope we'll be quicker and I hope they're not as fast as the 30-second gap. Reflecting on Mercedes' own pace at the Marina Bay circuit, Hamilton reflected that Mercedes had not been too far in front of the pace of the Ferraris and McLaren and Lando Norris, but added that he did not necessarily expect a repeat at Suzuka. In last year's qualifying session at the Japanese circuit, Hamilton and Russell were outpaced by the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, and overlapped with the Alpines on single lap pace. Hamilton took 5th in a rain-shortened Grand Prix. After the race, he said, afterwards he said, I don't know whether that's really the case. The Mercedes had the best race pace. Carlos, though, was managing at the front. We are all relatively close, I would say, at the front, Hamilton added. So he continued to say, but with a great race, it was just to have us all up that close up front. I think this weekend, I don't anticipate having the performance we had in the last race. We will work very hard to continue to try and push the envelope that we have. I'm hoping that we're not terribly far off this weekend in Suzuka. So, high hopes for Lewis Hamilton this weekend in Suzuka. We certainly hope to have some more competition up the front of the grid, and it would be great to have a Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull title challenge for that race win on Sunday. But we'll have to wait and see what this weekend has in store for us. As we move on to our next article, the Japanese Grand Prix. Lando Norris calls for harsher penalties for blocking in Formula 1 after Max Verstappen incidents in Singapore. You've got nothing else to do on an outlap but hit the recharge button and look in your mirror, and people seem to struggle to be able to do that in Formula 1, says McLaren's Lando Norris. Lando Norris firmly believes that Max Verstappen should have received a greater penalty for blocking at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, and has called on the FIA to clamp down on harsher penalties for drivers who impede on others in qualifying. Amid a dismal weekend for Red Bull on the street circuit last weekend out, Verstappen was called to the stewards after blocking in qualifying last Saturday to discuss 3 separate incidents of alleged blocking, 1 in the pit lane and 2 on track. He received 2 formal reprimands, 1 for delaying his exit from the end of the pit lane in Q1 and 1 for blocking Yuki Tsunoda in Q2, with Red Bull also being fined €5,000 for the latter incident, having admitted that there had been poor communication on its part with Verstappen about the oncoming AlphaTauri car. But Norris feels that the world champion got away for the Tsunoda incident lightly, and argues that in general there should be greater sanctions for impeding others in qualifying. I don't want to say too much, as I'll just create controversy. I think that blocking 1 on track was the one that should have been a penalty, said the McLaren driver in Thursday's press conference ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. He blocked someone. It's not just down to the team. I know the team got fined in the end of the day, but it should be down to the drivers as well to look in his mirrors and see if someone else is behind. You've got nothing else to do the whole lap. You've got to look in your mirrors, and it seems like a lot of people struggle to do that. It should just be harsher penalties for blocking people, because so many people do it. It ruins your lap, it ruins your qualifying. It put Yuki out in qualifying. He was P1 in Q1 and probably would have been P1 in Q3 all the way. Just no one seems to care, arguing that cases of impeding are on the rise. Norris believes drivers ought to take more responsibility in qualifying when cars on faster laps come up behind them on track. It's especially difficult and has happened a lot this season. It has happened to me quite a few times, especially with certain teams, added Norris. But it's also up to the driver to look in the mirror. You've got nothing else to do on your outlap but to hit the recharge button and to look in your mirror. And people struggle to be able to do that in Formula 1. It's just a surprise. Certainly a lot of comments coming from Lando Norris, not necessarily happy about people just not looking in their mirrors and getting out of the way for traffic on their outlaps when others are on qualifying laps for the race on Sunday. Sitting alongside Tsunoda at Suzuka, Norris added, "I'll probably block someone else, Yuki, and make myself look stupid." In its verdict on the incident between Verstappen and Tsunoda, the FIA said that stewards reviewed a number of impeding and alleged impeding incidents from the current current season, and consistent with previous decisions in relation to the severity of the breach, imposed a penalty of reprimand on the driver and a fine on the competitor. Verstappen was also asked on Thursday for his reflections on the incidents in Singapore. Every single instance is different, the Red Bull driver said. The only thing I can say about Singapore is that I explained what happened when I was sitting in the car. The information that was given to me. That was the only thing I could do. Then it's up to the stewards to make that call. Nonetheless, the decision to only impose a reprimand for the incident with Tsunoda had raised some eyebrows. Martin Brundle said, quiet how Max Verstappen didn't also get a penalty for impeding Yuki Tsunoda in qualifying when considering other penalties applied this season was a great surprise to many in the paddock, which I confidently predict includes the team and driver in question. That Tsunoda's AlphaTauri team didn't send a representative to the hearing, albeit as the Red Bull Junior team, was a sporting disappointment to me. Well, it's a bit of a disappointment to Martin Brundle, but it is expected between those two teams when you have the sister team of AlphaTauri having an incident with the sister team of Red Bull. We'd expect really for them not really to send a representative and kind of just sort it out on their own. But yeah, impeding has come up into the limelight a lot in the recent weeks and months, and we certainly don't want to see drivers being affected by traffic in their qualifying runs again. So moving on to another article, speaking with Lando Norris yet again, he said, "He pushed me a lot. Norris is full of praise for Piastri after the Formula 1 rookie signs a new McLaren deal." Lando Norris believes his teammate Oscar Piastri has exceeded most people's expectations after the Australian's stellar start to his Formula 1 career with McLaren, which has led to a fresh contract. Ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix, McLaren announced that Piastri had signed a new deal that will keep him on board until at least the end of the 2026 season, 1 year beyond Norris's current contract. It marked the latest highlight in an already encouraging rookie campaign so far, which included a run to P2 behind Red Bull's Max Verstappen during the sprint shootout and sprint in Belgium and 6 Grand Prix points finishes. Giving his take on Piastri's new deal, Norris said, "First off, congratulations to him. I think any contract that allows you to stay longer in Formula 1 is a great thing. He's pushed and he's performed. He's done everything he needed to do, and I think it's exceeded most people's expectations from what he's been able to achieve early this season. He's pushed me a lot as well. It's not a nice thing. It's not what I want, but he's done a very good job. So congrats to him for continuing for another few years. We've had a fun first half of the season and a lot of progress. I think for him to be part of that progress and to hopefully continue into next year, 2025 and 2026 for himself, it's going to be something really to look forward to." With Norris describing McLaren's lineup as the strongest on the grid, Piastri sitting alongside his teammate during Thursday's drivers' press conference at Suzuka, weighed in with his own thoughts. "I'm obviously very happy to have announced it already," Piastri commented. "I was already around for next year, but to announce it for the end of 26 now is very exciting." Pushed on why it was a 2-year extension, the 22-year-old added, "I don't know. Obviously, I've got 3 years already after this. I think it's always nice to have a sense of security. It's made sense from my point of view and from the team's point of view as well. Longevity and continuation together is a nice bit of confidence for us all." McLaren head into the Japanese Grand Prix this weekend on a high after Lando Norris' second place finish and Piastri's rise from 17th to 7th in the Singapore Grand Prix after being caught up by Lance Stroll's Q1 crash. Yes, well, certainly looking forward to what Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri can do in Japan. It's a more traditional circuit. I think it will suit their cars a lot better, and I'm certainly hoping to see them quite high up on the grid. Maybe we won't just get a 3-way fight for the P1 there in in Suzuka, but maybe we'll get a 4-way title challenge between McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari this next weekend out. That would certainly be very, very exciting. Let's just jump into the comments here. TC saying the blocking will get worse and worse when more teams join the Formula 1 grid in the future. Yes, that certainly could become more of an issue in the future, but I think we just need Formula 1 to maybe have a look at its reviews and its systems in place and maybe figure out some ways to stop these impeding and these drivers getting in the way of each other on their quali laps. Moving on to our next article though, will Alex Albon compete at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona? Rumours currently going around have been saying that Alex Albon could race in the Daytona 24 Hours next year, with an article here from dailysportscar.com saying current Williams Formula 1 driver Alex Albon has been tipped to compete at the 2024 IMSA Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona in the GTP class with Acura team Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport. Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport has been rumoured in recent weeks to be fielding a Formula 1 driver in the 2024 Twice Around the Clock Classic in Florida. Speaking on the Week in Sports podcast yesterday, Marshall Pruitt believes Alex Albon is the driver in question. It was mentioned that a Formula 1 driver would be part of its Rolex 24 Hours driver rotation, he said. I have heard on pretty good accounts that driver is Alex Albon, the Williams Grand Prix driver. I had one source in particular who tends to be immaculate when it comes to driver information. It's not something that I have heard from the team because I haven't asked, but to me, that's a cool thing. 27-year-old Alex Albon is no stranger to sports car and GT racing. Back in 2021, when he was without a Formula 1 seat, he competed in DTM with AlphaTauri AF Corsa, finishing 6th in the championship in a Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Next year, Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport is expanding its GTP effort with two Acura ARX 06s. Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque and Jordan Taylor and Louis Delatraz have been confirmed as full-season driver pairings. This is certainly very, very exciting if we do get Alex Albon getting into a 24-hour seat for the Daytona 24 hours next year. We'll have to check and see whether that does clash with the Formula 1 calendar set out for next year, but it could be very, very exciting to have the likes of Alex Albon competing in a World Endurance Championship race. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing that. If it does happen, I will certainly be tuning into that. And maybe we'll get that up on this channel and do a live watch along for that. Maybe we'll have to get Mark and as well to pick up the pace for that, because we'll have to stream for 24 hours straight. Yeah, just checking our comment section here. No more new comments from you guys. Do be sure to drop some more comments for me if you have some more questions or any new articles that have come out while I have been on this live news video here. Moving on, though, to another bit of news here. McLaren have bought a new rear wing to this next weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. McLaren have said that they have not achieved even half of what it wants to do with their aerodynamics of its Formula 1 car, despite recent impressive progress with Lando Norris. I will say that from the car we had in Bahrain, with the improvements in Baku, then in Austria, we're not happy as of yet, but we are making the correct improvements necessary. So McLaren have brought new rear wings for this Japanese Grand Prix. It looks like they have interesting little winglets on the back of the wing. It might just be protectors, but if those are little winglets, that would certainly be very, very interesting to see nonetheless. Moving on though to another one, seeing some new helmets that are being brought in by the Grand Prix drivers ahead of this weekend. We have Zhou Guanyu bringing in a new helmet. He's got a dark blue helmet with houndstooth designs on that for this weekend. We've also got Lewis Hamilton bringing in a striking new helmet. It's chrome, so it's a battle of the chrome helmets this year. We've had Lando Norris with a chrome helmet, and now Lewis Hamilton has a chrome helmet. I will say it looks incredibly cool. It looks really, really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that out on track. Yeah, really, really cool. Mark saying, I'm not commentating for 24 hours, but yes, we can have a look at that. Moving on to another bit of information. Who else have we got with a new helmet? Oh, we've also got Fernando Alonso with a new helmet, a Japanese-inspired helmet. That looks also really, really awesome ahead of this Grand Prix race weekend. And then just moving on to our last bit of information here this weekend. And the title of our video, Sebastian Vettel has gathered all of the Formula 1 drivers around Corner 2 in Suzuka for a gathering and a bit of sustainability ahead of the Suzuka Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel has gone and set up another set of B hotels in Corner 2 of another Grand Prix circuit. He's done this before in Austria, and he has now done this here in Suzuka in Turn 2. It's going to be Buzzing Corner, and they have repainted the curbs there black and yellow, which I find quite awesome. And then they got all of the drivers together here today. It was actually this morning that they got them all together, everyone out on track, including Robert Schwartzman, and Mick Schumacher was there, so glad to see Mick Schumacher was at least able to see his old friend Sebastian Vettel. And they are, as I said, they all got together, painted some drawings. Each team got allocated a beehive, and they each decorated a little bit. But really glad to see all of the drivers getting together for sustainability and to just take part in something really, really exciting for the sport. And of course, it's always amazing to see Lewis Hamilton back in Formula 1 and at a Grand Prix race weekend. Hopefully, we'll maybe see him in the paddock this weekend. I hope to see him on some commentating. Maybe that could be quite cool. But we'll have to wait and see. Carlos Sainz was also notably quite late for his for that meeting of all the drivers. He arrived quite late to that. Just reading a little bit of a blurb from Formula 1. They said, "Welcome to Buzzing Corner. Sebastian Vettel brought together all of the teams and drivers of Suzuka to build B hotels on the inside of Turn 2 as part of his biodiversity project. The curbs have been momentarily painted black and yellow too." Yeah, so very, very cool to see that Sebastian Vettel is here this weekend. And yeah, let's see what some of you guys say here in the comment section. TC saying the McLaren has improved so much since the beginning of the race season up until now, as well as Senna's helmet color is the all-time best for me. Yes, of course, that iconic helmet from Ayrton Senna will, of course, always be one of the most iconic in the sport. But it is always really cool to see these Formula 1 drivers changing up their helmets for different race weekends now that they are able to do that. Just checking Twitter for any more news articles for you guys. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off for you here today. Yeah, just having a look here in Twitter. Nothing too much else that I can see other than a lot of upgrades and a lot of circuit-specific rear wings that are being brought here. It is a medium downforce circuit here in Suzuka, so we're seeing a medium force down rear wing for Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, as well as the Alpines. Also looking at some interesting brake shrouds for the Red Bulls. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of their issues that they had in Singapore. Supposedly they're bringing back those flaws that they had in Singapore that they tried to test out. As well as, yeah, if that doesn't work, then maybe they'll just have to revert back to their old spec flaws. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what does work for them in qualifying, as well as all of the practice sessions. Just before signing off with you here today, we're going to take one more look at the 2023 Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix weather forecast. I'm trying to find the latest one here. I've got one here now from Racing News 365. The 2023 Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix weather forecast. After a washout last year, could we be in store for the same at Suzuka this year? The Suzuka circuit will play host to the Japanese Grand Prix, the 16th round of the 2023 Formula 1 campaign. After a dry weekend at Singapore and Monza, it looks set to change with rain affecting some of the weekend at Suzuka. According to our friends at weareonline.com, September is a wet month in Suzuka, with an average of 195mm of rain. The Grand Prix weekend will see lots of clouds and showers on Friday for the morning practice session. In the afternoon, though, the shower chance decreases, which is favourable for the second practice session. Rain, though, could impact the weekend. Over the weekend, the chance of showers is smaller, as cloud cover and sun alternate. It is not guaranteed to be dry, and a local shower remains possible, especially on Sunday. Due to the local nature of that shower, there's a good chance it will miss Suzuka should it rain during the Sunday's race. The precipitation will be brief and not compared to last year's rain, though. Currently, it is tropically hot in Japan, and in the Suzuka region, it is 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. After Friday's rain, it will be less warm, and over the weekend, it will be around 28 degrees Celsius. So glad to see that it is going to be good weather, at least in Suzuka this race weekend. And just going over a little bit of stats of this Suzuka Grand Prix, all the most important facts and stats that you need to know ahead of this weekend in Suzuka. The vital statistics of this Grand Prix. The first Grand Prix held here was in 1987, with its track length being 5.807 kilometers. The lap record set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019 is at 1 minute and 30.9 seconds. The most pole positions around here is Michael Schumacher with 8, and the most wins by also Michael Schumacher with 6. Suzuka is the only figure of 8 track on the Formula 1 calendar at the moment, and the pole run to turn 1 breaking point is 277 meters. Well, we are certainly looking forward to this weekend in Suzuka. It is one of my favorite circuits on the calendar. We'll also be getting up a race or gaming stream for all of you guys that will be part of our build-up package for this weekend. We're going to be joining you bright and early tomorrow morning. It is going to be my birthday, so do be sure to join us in the comment section for that and send all of your wishes. It's going to be a very, very early stream, so hopefully all of you guys will be able to join us. But if you're not, do be sure to just go and watch that replay, watch the highlights from that session. We will be uploading, of course, our review of the first and second practice sessions that are being held tomorrow. The first one is at 4 a.m. South African time. Second practice session, I think, is at 8 a.m. Let me just double check my schedule. 4:30 a.m. is free practice 1. 8 a.m. is free practice 2. So very bright and early, but we will be joining you bright and early for that. Thank you very much, though, for joining me here today for my Formula 1 daily news video. It has been very good to join all of you guys again. Great to have you all here in the comment section. TC saying great news updates, appreciate it. And Mark just saying thank you very much. Thank you guys all for joining me. I have been Reece here on Forever Motorsports. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only 2 FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987. The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. This circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content, and we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports. Here you're joined by myself, Mark and Reece for our weekly, or most of the time, weekly Forever F1 podcast. Of course, this is on Tuesday today. And let us know where you're watching from. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video for more content like this for our weekly podcast. So we're going to go through lots of news today. Of course, the main thing that we're going to be talking about is that driver position in AlphaTauri. Who's going to take that seat next year? And Reece busy got his phone coming off as he's trying to go get the comments, I'm sure. Yes. But yes, anyway, so we're going to look at a few articles and also answer some of your questions and otherwise. Let's go and have a look. So Reece, of course, Red Bull are facing a bit of a dilemma in terms of who's going to take that seat. Of course, De Vries was fired earlier this year. removed from that seat. Daniel Ricciardo came in to replace him, and then Daniel Ricciardo broke his hand, and then Liam Lawson came in to replace him, of course. And now Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo, both of them, been outperforming Yuki Tsunoda since their arrival into the sport, which then puts his seat at risk. So, what's going to happen here, Reece?
I think certainly the biggest issue for Red Bull and AlphaTauri this year has been the fact that Daniel Ricciardo did come in as their second driver, replacing Nick de Vries. Yes, that one. And then, of course, he broke his hand after outperforming Yuki Tsunoda, doing quite well. He already is pretty much a given that he's got that seat, so we know he's not going to be replaced, that's for sure. It's that second seat. It's either going to be Yuki Tsunoda or Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson has now come into Formula One, and in his third race has scored points, and not just a single point. He scored 2 points. He's finished 9th in Singapore, the toughest race on the calendar, and he did really well there. I think he deserves to get a full-time seat. But the reports that are coming out are that Yuki Tsunoda might possibly be having his contract renewed in the next race in Japan.
Well, as I say, it would be very obviously poignant to have it in Japan, because that is, of course, his home race there for the Japanese driver. So let's just go read a little bit of articles here and discuss this further. So AlphaTauri's crazy 2024 driver seat Ruby Goldberg machine that began with Nick de Vries' Formula One dismissal had another element added to it after the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix. Liam Lawson is an F1 point-scoring driver following the New Zealanders' Marina Bay heroics to cross the line into P9. Furthermore, he created headlines on Saturday after his Q2 effort kicked out Max Verstappen in terms of out of the top 10 for that Q3 session, creating an unpredictable grid that battled for the race win. So showing such potential only 3 rounds into his Formula One career means that Lawson has cannonballed rather than thrown his hat into the ring for a 2024 seat. I don't think we can argue with that. He's been very, very good since coming into the sport.
Yes, and I think what you really have to look at now off the back of the Singapore Grand Prix, yes, of course, Yuki Tsunoda was unfortunate that he was actually, it wasn't an engine failure like we thought it was. Reviewing the footage this afternoon, I saw was that he was hit into by Sergio Perez on the first lap, which caused him a puncture, which of course ended his race, unfortunately. So 2 races in a row he hasn't been able to show what he can do compared to Liam Lawson. But Liam Lawson now has 2 points, and Yuki Tsunoda only has 3 for the season. So it's really, really close between those two. If Liam Lawson once again outscores Yuki Tsunoda this next race weekend in Japan, I think Yuki Tsunoda is going to be under a lot of pressure if they haven't already given him that race seat.
It's exactly that. It's going to be under a lot of pressure, and he needs to really finish in Japan. It's going to be his home Grand Prix, of course, so he wants to do well. He needs to score points here as well. I think that's a big thing that he needs to do. That's going to play in his mind. They had upgrades this weekend. Yuki Tsunoda couldn't really make use of them due to that puncture caused by Sergio Perez. So certainly going to be up for grabs. However, we talk about the other one who came into that seat to replace Nick de Vries originally, who was unfortunately out injured and will come back to replace Lawson, of course, towards the end of the season. That being Daniel Ricciardo. And he's shown that he was no slouch with his cameo performances in Hungary and Belgium. However, the Australian might be sweating that his injury could cost him a chance of a full-time comeback next year. Then, of course, we talk about Yuki Tsunoda continuing to grow as a driver by taking the underpowered AlphaTauri to 3 top 10 finishes over the season. He hasn't completed a race, though, as Reece says, since the Dutch Grand Prix. So that's 3 worthy drivers without 2024 contracts as of yet, with 2 seats available, meaning that sadly one of these names needs to lose out. So quite frankly, let's ask the very blunt question to all of you who are watching. Who do you want to see not get that seat? Who do you want to see as the 2 drivers for AlphaTauri? And Reece, I think I'm going to go straight to you. Who are the 2 drivers you want to have in that AlphaTauri team?
Well, I know what's most likely, and I know what my heart wants. I'd love to see a Liam Lawson, Daniel Ricciardo line up there at AlphaTauri. I think that would be phenomenal in terms of potential for scoring points. I know that's a bit harsh on Yuki Tsunoda, who's been in the seat for 3 years now, but I think that's exactly why I think he's had his turn and hasn't shown anything spectacular. Everyone keeps saying he needs to grow up a little bit more, but we never see it enough. And he always has these tantrums over the radio, and he never seems to just take that step up and actually learn and grow from his mistakes.
It is an interesting one because he pretty much treats everyone else around him like he's a spoiled child. You know, he's a bit like a teenager brat, if I may. And I don't mean to be mean to Yuki Tsunoda and his antics, but there's a certain level of maturity that's required in Formula One and in all sport at a certain level. This is the highest form of motorsport in the world, and you expect a certain level of level-headedness, I suppose, which you don't get from Yuki Tsunoda. He's very passionate, I give him that, but I think a bit too bratty, I think, is a good word to use. So it requires a lot of calming that down, and I think that's also another reason why some people don't necessarily like him as much, because every single time something goes wrong, you've got this complete temper tantrum coming from Yuki Tsunoda each time.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's bratty. I'd definitely say he's very hot-headed because, as you say, he can be quite hot under the helmet, and he has some very fiery exchanges with his race engineers and with the pit wall. Quite a lot of the time, they're having to calm him down throughout the race if he's made a small mistake or if he's been given a penalty for something. It takes a very, very long time for him to cool down under the helmet. And he just hasn't seemed to grow up and take that step up from that point just yet. But I mean, I'd love to see him still in Formula One, but I think Liam Lawson has showed that he's able to outperform him.
Yeah, and I suppose another thing that you always have to look at in Formula One, and I know it's not something you're supposed to, but it is something we have to because of the modern age requirements, that you need to be somewhat of a personality. And I suppose there he does have a little bit of a personality. Everyone knows that he is this sort of character. He's very hot-headed during the race and with his answers, but otherwise he's quite a quiet person. Before the race starts, he's always there sitting by himself, very much by not engaging with anybody. He's not quite the character outside of the car as Formula One might demand of you. But having said that, neither is Liam Lawson really. He's also a very quiet character, doesn't seem to get around too much. It's not quite like the other third driver here that's in contention, like Daniel Ricciardo, who's of course loves the lights, loves the camera, and loves putting on a show for everyone. So it's another thing you have to look at. Obviously, it's very minimal, but I think for that, who would you prefer to have?
Well, as I say already, I think that Daniel Ricciardo has got that seat as a given already. I think the marketability that he brings to a Formula One team is huge, and the likes of Adidas or Hugo Boss would love to have him on board to work with, because just imagine getting him in marketing campaigns. He is such a personality, he's also, just to say, he's a good-looking guy. So, I mean, he's really easy to use for marketing. So they'd love to have him a part of that team, and I think that's already a given, especially with his relationship with Red Bull.
And, of course, it does also come down to Yuki Tsunoda's financing by Honda. Of course, he is sponsored by Honda, and Honda are financing a lot of his career. Now, where's Honda moving, of course, because they're moving away from the Red Bull team. So, does that put Yuki Tsunoda's seat in contention in terms of being swapped out with somebody else? You see, because Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo, there's no reasons why they wouldn't be able to stay on there in AlphaTauri and that Red Bull racing setup, because of course both of them are there. Whereas Yuki Tsunoda is a little bit on the edge of that because of that Honda deal. So that also plays into it, I think, and that maybe is the one thing that sort of says maybe he doesn't quite get that seat, although we do predict that he's probably going to get that seat. It's a difficult one.
I think that he's going to lose out on it because of the fact that Honda's moving away from Red Bull. They want to start moving towards the future. I mean, sure, it would be a love story, of course, for Yuki and Honda to have him extended into 2024 and onwards, possibly, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately, because of the fact that Honda has decided to split ways with Red Bull for the future. They're going towards possibly Aston Martin.
Well, let us know in the comments what do you think is going to happen. Who are the two drivers you want to race for AlphaTauri next season? I think I will certainly say I want Lawson and Ricciardo. I think Lawson's going to get a lot of points. I think he's going to be someone to watch in Formula One. I think he's going to be a great driver. Daniel Ricciardo, of course, we know what he's done. He's raced for big teams, done very well, won a few races, of course.
Exactly, race winner.
He knows what he's doing in that seat, and of course, is a proper good personality to have on the grid. Yuki Tsunoda, however, yes, is improving, but has not really shown enough for me yet in Formula One. This is his second season, of course.
Third
season. What am I talking about? Third season. Just tells you how nebulous the one season was. But, we haven't really seen massive improvements. I mean, 3 points this season. Yes, the car's not been great. It's been one of the worst cars on the grid. However, we've seen Nico Hülkenberg come into that Haas team and done unbelievable things for them. We've seen other drivers come into the teams that were not so powered and done some great stuff. Yuki Tsunoda's not really had that shining performance that everyone goes, my word, look at this as a driver. This is a hell of a driver. So,
but people have been saying that about Liam Lawson as soon as he stepped in. He's been the underdog since as soon as he got into that seat, because it was mid-weekend already at a really difficult track. And since then, he's just really performed very well. He was very close to the points in Monza and now has gotten points in Singapore.
So hence one then looks at Yuki Tsunoda and says, well,
what have you
been doing? Because you've been there for 15 plus races this season. So what's happening there? We're looking at our poll right now in terms of who do you think should take that AlphaTauri seat. We've got only just 5 votes there, but let's go and look. Not a single person, notably, voting for Tsunoda. So,
very interesting.
Basically saying Lawson and Ricciardo should be taking those seats, with the majority of the votes saying that Lawson should be dubbed basically number 1 driver. So it's a very, very interesting little vote poll there, and be sure to go and give your thoughts on it if you agree. But yeah, I think basically we're both in agreement. We're saying Lawson and Ricciardo should take that seat. Tsunoda should be axed. If Tsunoda gets axed, If Tsunoda gets axed, where does he go?
I don't know. I think he'd have to be out of a seat. He'd possibly be a reserve driver for Red Bull. But I think that it's difficult for Tsunoda in terms of the fact that what do Red Bull do now? They may as well just carry on delaying making the decision on his contract. They don't have to make that decision at all. They hold the monopoly. They own the team. They can go, well, we were going to make the decision in Suzuka, but we're just going to wait and see what happens in Suzuka with the last race weekend with Lawson before hopefully Ricciardo gets back into that seat, and then we'll make our decision for 2024. It's really hard, of course, and harsh on Tsunoda, but I mean, when you have that opportunity as a team to weigh up your driver against someone else, why not take the opportunity?
Well, that's a very interesting point there, of course, brought up there. So Liam Lawson, Daniel Ricciardo, Tsunoda, who takes that seat next year? Let us know in the comments, and we'll obviously monitor that situation as it happens for the remainder of the season. Will Yuki Tsunoda get offered that contract this weekend in his home Grand Prix, or will it be delayed? Maybe Ricciardo comes back into the seat to replace Lawson again, or maybe out of nowhere they say to Yuki Tsunoda, actually, quite frankly, could you just step out of the seat for the remainder of the season?
That would be very harsh.
But yeah, wow. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all. So I think Tsunoda will finish the season off with Ricciardo, of course. They won't say no to Ricciardo. You won't go back to that seat. I'm sure they'll give it back to him. Lawson will then take a break. But then next season, does Lawson come back in place of Tsunoda? That's going to be the interesting things we need to find out. So let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Now, let's move on to something else here. So got a little article here. It says 10 things we learned about the 2023 F1 Singapore Grand Prix. This, of course, leading up to the Suzuka Grand Prix here. Suzuka, I'll get there eventually.
Suzuka's in South Africa.
Suzuka, same. The Suzuka Grand Prix there in Japan. So, Carlos Sainz scored the first victory of 2023 for a team other than Red Bull. Of course, that's fantastic news, and everyone was very, very ecstatic, even though Ferrari did really stuff up their strategy quite a lot. Carlos Sainz just being very clever and using Lando Norris to assist in getting that victory. If they didn't work together, probably would have been a different story. So yeah, it was fantastic. It wasn't, however, a flash in the pan for the Ferrari team on a weekend that the year's dominant Formula One team appeared oddly subdued, with both cars missing the Q3 cut. Another piece of the 2024 market driver jigsaw slotted into place, and here's what we learned about that race in Singapore.
Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula One season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much.
Red Bull was finally toppled. That's the one thing. That their car is not invincible. Is not unbeatable. However, it's still very strong. I think it's definitely
they're
something.
going to be strong back after
Yeah,
the
I think Japan, they'll be very strong yet again. I think we're probably going to see a Red Bull 1-2 or something similar to that this weekend. But great to see that Red Bull can be undone in certain circuits.
And interested to see that it didn't happen at Monaco this year because they were all right. I wonder if they just tried. I was reading reports that they tried some new floor setups this race weekend. They tried new floors. And maybe they just didn't work because, of course, they've had those reduced aerodynamic tunnel testing. So maybe they just tried to just put some upgrades in without having used the wind tunnel, and they haven't worked.
Yeah, well, of course, the big thing that everyone was talking about over the weekend, attributing Red Bull's downfall in terms of the weekend and their positions in qualifying, not making it to Q3 for both drivers, was the flexi wing clampdown by the FIA, which everyone reckoned that was the main reason. But Red Bull came out and said that no, they didn't. Didn't have to change much at all for the weekend.
Yes,
so,
and I have information that actually debunks all of that because, as I said, they were having issues with those new upgrades that they had. They went back to their old spec wings or old spec floors.
So to tell you.
They were fine again. They had pace for the race at least, but of course missed out in qualifying because they had less running time to set the car up. But yeah, very interesting to see that they weren't necessarily hindered by those flexi wing clampdowns and the technical new technical directive that was introduced in Singapore. But we'll have to wait and see whether they are going to be competitive in Suzuka in Japan.
Now, the next thing, of course, we learned from the weekend was the fact that Sainz has been putting on quite a lot of form these past few weekends and doesn't show a sign of ending, as it's only going up and up and up for the Ferrari driver as he went and won this past weekend there in Singapore. So, what do you think he can do this weekend?
Well, he's certainly been putting a lot of pressure on Charles Leclerc. He's been outperforming him in every single race weekend so far. From the second half of the season, I am very surprised to see that Charles Leclerc hasn't been doing all that well. And here's another point saying Ferrari's recent car changes have hurt Leclerc in the 2022 Verstappen way. I don't know what that means. But yeah, it's interesting that the new sort of car in 2023 does not suit Charles Leclerc's driving style, who's meant to be the number one driver at that team, but
not
is
anymore,
now no. He is the number two
really
driver in terms of performance.
I think Sainz has really shown his class these past few race weekends and has been consistent. And again, we always talk about consistency being a big thing in Formula One, and I think Leclerc has really struggled with that. Not just this season. Last season he was doing, they had a much better car last season in terms of competing with Red Bull, and he wasn't consistent enough as a driver to do anything last season, and this season I think it's been even worse for him. So it's a real crux period for Leclerc now going into next season, because next season he really needs to fix not just obviously the team that he's with, but his own driving. He needs to make sure that he is out and out the number one driver, because if you've got the same car as Carlos Sainz and you're supposed to be the number one driver, you cannot be outperformed by him on a regular basis.
He needs to be more involved with the entire design of the car. He needs to become involved behind the scenes as much as possible back in Maranello. He needs to build the team around himself so that they design a car that suits his driving style, not Carlos Sainz's specifically. I don't think they've done it on purpose. I think that's just the way that the development of this year's car has gone, and that's why Carlos Sainz has really benefited. Just looking at the next point, George Russell must learn from the Singapore race crash to reach his full Formula One potential. George Russell, unfortunate there. I see we do have a comment from TC.
Yes,
we'll
we
speak
do.
about
We'll
that in a second.
First,
George Russell in the final lap of the race was really, really close to the back of Lando Norris. Lando Norris said he made the exact same mistake on the same lap. He touched the barrier a little bit into turn 10, I think it was. Yes, it was turn 10. And Lando Norris said he was fine, but George Russell hit it a little bit harder, breaking his front right suspension and going into the barrier.
I think probably George Russell was following him a little too closely and tried to follow his line and thought,
Exactly.
Closer. And then because Norris touched the wall ever so slightly, Russell's maybe a little bit wider, trying to think, because he's thinking immediately after this turn, I'm going to make the dive around the outside. So I think that's maybe why he was a little bit wider, and that's why he was outdone by that wall. But he was basically in tears after the Grand Prix, talking about that incident. And I mean,
he was apparently very, very upset. We've seen this in the past. He's a very emotional character, and I think it just speaks to the fact that he puts so much into his racing and really gives it his all and puts his entire heart and soul into it. That's what a racing driver is. There's so much adrenaline, and you put everything on the line as a driver. Of course, you're putting your life at risk at the same time. So, Yeah, just reading what TC said here, they said, I think if Lawson gives more consistent results in the next races, then he should get the seat. I agree there, TC, but I do think he's
got a
only going to
limited
get one more opportunity.
He's got a limited opportunity though, because Ricciardo will come back, and I'm fairly certain Red Bull won't be that harsh and go and say to Danny Rick after coming back for 2 races and then having to unfortunately sit out due to those injuries. I don't think they're going to go and say to Ricciardo, no, you're not going to come back into the seat. Sorry, better luck next time. So I'm sure he'll come back into that seat, which means Lawson's only got this weekend to prove his worth and to prove why he should take that seat away. So that's certainly going to be an interesting thing. I see somebody now has voted for Tsunoda in that poll, so it's continuously growing there. And TC just saying that Russell probably felt he let the team down, a lot of points lost. Well, yeah, it was a lot of points lost. But I also think, just for Russell's personal drivers' championship,
it's been a difficult year for him. So I think it would have been really good for his self-confidence to get that podium, and this really has maybe given him a bit of an off.
It was the first time that we saw Russell finally get to grips with that car, because of course when they made that change and they made that decision to go back to side pods on that car, Hamilton was suddenly really struggling and has been struggling for a fair while, and Russell then of course did brilliantly this weekend.
Russell was fine with 0 side pods.
Yes,
then Hamilton was fine with side pods.
Yes,
and now it took a really long time for Russell.
That's what I mean. I meant the other way around. Sorry,
I got what you meant.
I meant the other way around. But yes, so Russell was finally getting to grips with the car and was going to show it this weekend in terms of beating Hamilton and doing really, really well, then crashing out. I think it's a big confidence booster because he was on the right trajectory for himself, and then the crash. Of course, that's Mercedes. We're talking about things that happened in Singapore. The unfortunate thing, and the thing that I do get a little bit upset about, is that of Fernando Alonso.
Difficult race for Alonso on Sunday, unfortunately. On a weekend to forget for Aston Martin, and before he put it in an oddly poor and mistake-riddled race performance, Fernando Alonso raised eyebrows with his comments on Formula One's knockout qualifying system. The Q1, 2 and 3 format has been in place since 2006, bars Formula One's short-lived experiment with the elimination qualifying in 2016, and is popular with fans. In Singapore, though, the usual maximum lap time procedure installed to stop drivers going unnecessarily slowly and causing traffic issues was scrapped following a driver's vote. But when traffic nevertheless becomes a problem, particularly in Q1, Alonso suggested another previously used format should be considered instead. Whatever the FIA do, we will find a way to sail that kind of rule, he said. They have a very difficult job in terms of managing traffic on street circuits. I've said many times that there is only one way to find a solution, which is single lap qualifying, last used at various arrangements in 3 years running up to 2006. All the other solutions we can test, but will never work because we will find a way. I think the qualifying format is obsolete. It has been the same for 20 to 25 years. But the cars are not the same. We have hybrid engines. We have to charge the battery. We have to cool the tires. So the only way to go forward is 1 lap qualifying.
Well, I think also another reason why he would probably say 1 lap qualifying
is because
it would benefit him quite significantly. He's one of the few drivers that can nail his lap straight away, whereas a couple of the others will have 1 or 2 attempts, and then one of the 2 attempts will be good enough. So, of course, he's going to say that, but I don't quite disagree with him. In certain tracks like Singapore, traffic does become a massive problem. Traditional circuits like Japan won't be nearly as much of a problem. It should be fine.
But it should be used for really tight street circuits like maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe Monaco here, of course. And then moving on to what happened to Fernando Alonso's teammate here this last weekend. He had a massive crash in qualifying. We really are glad to see that he walked away from that car unhurt. Of course, he did sit out of the race on Sunday because the car wasn't able to be rebuilt, as well as he was still quite sore from that accident. But it was a huge incident that saw Lance Stroll smashing into the wall at the end of his lap into turn 19.
And once more, just costing Aston Martin more valuable points. At the end of the day, I'm going to take away the sympathies with Stroll. It's another crash. It's another let-down performance. It's another ruined race weekend for Aston Martin where one driver did all right and the other did not. So, again, everyone keeps having eyes on Stroll. How much longer is he going to stay in the sport? That's a big question. How much longer can he stay in the sport?
It's really difficult to judge right now because, of course, his dad owns the team. I don't think you can really give him an exit date until he's ready to leave. Well, because I think that's how it's going to be.
Somebody needs to make the decision. Somebody needs to go and say, listen, pull up your socks or get out of the team. Go play tennis or something. Go start your own business. I'm sure his dad can loan him a small loan of $1 million or something similar. But really, I think it's a real problem because he's in quite a decent car. He's got a very good teammate, of course, and he's not performing anywhere near the levels that we expect from the Aston Martin driver.
Yes, well, also looking at another point from this last weekend in Singapore, the new enforced Singapore changes were popular with the drivers. Of course, there were those changes to the track for this last race weekend. Due to the construction going on in the Marina Bay, they revised the last sector of the track to remove the old turns 15, 16, 17, and 18 and put a straight there, and then there was a chicane before the final sector. It made it actually quite exciting in terms of racing and raceability, with drivers getting really close into that sector and then allowing them to follow even close into the final sector and getting some overtakes there.
Well, it's exactly that. I think it actually benefited the Singapore Grand Prix. So quite frankly, keep it. I know they said it's temporary just for that construction, but keep it. I think everybody quite enjoyed it. It also made, it's a very long lap otherwise. A 1 minute 42, 1 minute 41 is the fastest lap you saw in the previous circuit. The new circuit just for this last weekend was a 131, 132. So it's, you lost 10 seconds there. It's actually quite beneficial for us fans. It's quite nice to see shorter laps, because shorter laps means we can see the same sort of periods and people could follow a little bit closer and have longer battles. So it's a bit more fun to watch. So personally, I'm all for it. Keep it there. That's my opinion. But we'll go to it. CC also saying it's better to keep Stroll as driver than to make him a technical director. Lol. I definitely think that's an interesting point.
Yes, I don't know how he would do as a technical director at all. So I think, yes, keep him maybe behind the wheel for now. But I don't know about whether his dad or anyone else in the team is ever going to be able to tell him to get out.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So I think that's pretty much wrapping up a lot of the stuff that we had to talk about this podcast and this week. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm not going just yet. I'm just going to talk about a couple of last things, and that's the fact that we've talked about the other three drivers in that AlphaTauri seat, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, and Lawson, in terms of who's going to take those two seats for next year, and we've had our discussions about that. Me and Reece both think Lawson and Ricciardo, and Tsunoda can just chill on the sidelines. But whatever happened to De Vries?
So, Nick De Vries, I spoke about it a little bit in my morning news show, but if you didn't follow that, Nick De Vries is planning a sports car switch following his Formula 1 exit. The Dutchman is eyeing a switch to the World Endurance Championship following his mid-season exit from AlphaTauri. Nick De Vries could make a switch back to sports car racing following his exit from AlphaTauri mid-season this year. The Dutchman was replaced by Daniel Ricciardo after only 10 races at the team, with AlphaTauri opting for more experience as they look to turn around their season.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So De Vries has previously raced in the World Endurance Championship with TDS Racing and Racing Team Netherlands, achieving a best finish of 4th in class at the Le Mans 24-hour race.
Yes, and he is reportedly set to race with Toyota in the hypercar class, replacing Jose Maria Lopez and racing alongside Kumuya Kobayashi and Mike Conway in the number 7 car for the 2024 World Endurance Championship season. De Vries was previously named as the official test and reserve driver for the 2020 and 21 season with Toyota, and was due to contest the 2023 season with the team alongside a season with Maserati in Formula E before his AlphaTauri call-up, which allowed him to get out of his 2023 contract with Toyota because he had a clause in it for if he got a contract with a Formula 1 team. So unfortunate though that he did get dropped from that team, and at least now Toyota is still interested in his services for 2024 and onwards in World Endurance Championship.
Quite apart from anything else, I'm just quite impressed that Kumuyi Kobayashi is still racing. That's been a while.
Yes, of course he is. Fernando Alonso is still racing.
Yeah, Kobayashi was years ago. And
I'm going to Google
I know, it's fine. Yes, he is young. I know he is younger than Alonso, but it's just, certain drivers, you just feel have been there and done that. When they leave Formula 1, you just forget about them. And I think that's definitely one of those. But yes, nonetheless, it looks like Nick De Vries is leaving Formula 1.
He's 37 now, so he's not that old. He still has a long racing career ahead of him. And he's been doing very, very well in World Endurance Championship with Toyota. But nonetheless, that brings us to an end of our podcast here today. Thank you very much for all of you for joining us. As I see TC says, thank you, gents. Thank you very much for joining us, TC. Yes, we have been here on Forever Motorsports for our Forever F1 podcast. I've been Reece.
I've been Mark.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only 2 FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987. The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. This circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content, and we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Forever Motorsports here for free practice 2 here in Suzuka for this week's Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, our FP2 session will get underway in just under 8 minutes time. And yeah, of course, we did review the first session. You can go and check that out on the channel. It's up already, so you can go and check that out. But Verstappen's back to winning dominance. Well, say winning dominance. It's back to track dominance, I suppose, after FP1 there. But we did see the Ferraris and the McLarens were also quick. Not as quick as Max, but were certainly competing in second and third between Sainz and Norris. So yeah, Reece, what are we going to expect in this second session?
Well, I think this session's going to be quite interesting. I think we're going to get a lot more qualifying runs before the session here today. I think it's going to be a lot more indicative of tomorrow afternoon session or tomorrow morning session, depending where you live, for the qualifying that we're going to get. So temperature should be very similar here today in the Japanese afternoon session. It's still morning, very early morning for us, but yeah,
Well, it's not as early now.
well, it's still early. I still want to go to bed. But it's going to be an interesting session where, as I said, we're going to get some quali runs, some race runs. It's looking a lot warmer out in Suzuka now. It doesn't seem to be raining off the back of the end of FP1. It starts to rain. I was wondering if we were going to get the rain affecting the session, but it does seem to be dry out there at the moment. Yeah, do be sure to let us know where you're watching from in the comment section, as well as letting us know who you're supporting for this race weekend. As well as, please do, guys, just ask us any questions. You can send some, any questions down there in the comment section.
We'll
get a poll. We'll get a poll there up for you guys.
Do we not have a poll?
I think we do have a poll. There voting for which team you're supporting this race weekend.
Yes, indeed. So be sure to go and participate in that. Anyway, we're now, of course, still just waiting here, looking just outside the back of the Aston Martin pit grid here, and they're all chilling and relaxing. We're seeing a lot of the fans here in Suzuka are all gearing up for the second session. Now looking at number 63, George Russell in the Mercedes. Now, both Mercedes drivers were not able to do, well, they didn't, not necessarily weren't able to, but they didn't opt to do any soft tyre runs in that first session. So hopefully we're going to see the pace from the Mercedes in the second session, and we'll see them compete likely with the Ferraris and the McLarens, which will make for a very interesting race on Sunday. Obviously, because I think the Red Bulls will be quite strong.
It's a lot warmer now in this session. It's now 29 degrees Celsius air temperature. I didn't quite see what the track temperature was, but yeah, I'm sure it will be a lot warmer than it was in FP1. It certainly looks that way already. And looking a lot more sunny over there. The clouds don't seem as dense as they were and as crowded over the circuit as they were earlier this morning.
It's exactly that. So, let's make some predictions, Reece, shall we, for our top 5 drivers at the end of this session. I think we'll see some more quali attempts. Of course, it's more similar to quali time tomorrow. So, some predictions for the session, Reece, in terms of who you think the top 5 will be.
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think Max Verstappen, of course, he's already there at the top. You're going to have to say he's going to stay there. So I'm going to say Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris. So that's 3 already. Then Charles Leclerc and Fernando Alonso. Top 5. There you go. Quick and easy.
Okay, straight there, straight into it. I didn't even have time to think. So I'm going to go Max Verstappen. I'm going to say Norris in second. I'm going to say Sainz in third. I'm going to say Leclerc in fourth. And I'm going to say Hamilton in fifth.
Okay, interesting. Different.
Yes, so that is my prediction. And we've got the titles running right now. And we'll get going with free practice 2 in just a little bit. I'm hoping to see Piastri be quite a bit quicker in this session so as to match his teammates somewhat, which would be great for him, of course. So, let's see what happens there.
Thank you very much. Just waiting for the session to get underway now. The titles are finishing up and, getting very, very close to getting underway here.
Yes, and as you see, it's in the morning. We've had some fantastic service has been delivered to us, and we've got some hot chocolate being delivered to us, which is fantastic. So we'll get going with that.
Will help us keep awake a little bit here this morning as we've been up since very early. But we do finally have those shots over the track and just some information for you about this track here in Suzuka, Japan. It is the 17th round of the Formula 1 calendar, of the Japanese Grand Prix calendar. The track distance here is 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles. Full throttle is about 64% of this track, and the top speed is 305 kilometers an hour with 18 turns and an elevation of 40.43 meters. The compounds here this race weekend are the C3, the C2, and the C1 compounds. Going on some of the harder compounds of the Pirelli range from C5 to C0, we've got the C3, 2, and 1. Soft, medium, and hard, of course. Bit harder on the range this weekend, but that is because Suzuka is a high degradation circuit. Those grandstands are now finally lined with all the Japanese fans all waiting for FP2 to get running yet again. We have just 3 minutes left on the clock to get going. Track temperature is currently 40 degrees Celsius with a humidity of 63%. in the area at the moment. Certainly looking a lot clearer than the first practice session, though, Mark.
Yes, but I will say the wind has picked up ever so slightly. It's now 9.7 kilometers to the west, whereas earlier it was next to nothing. So there's a little bit of wind now taking place here, and we can see it's clearly hot there. Lots of fanning of faces in the crowd.
Well, I mean, as I said, it's almost 30 degrees Celsius air temperature there. That's very hot for Japan. So, yes, I don't... I'm not surprised to see everyone with their fans and trying to keep themselves cool in this hot weather.
Meanwhile, here we are with hot chocolate and cappuccino. So, this tells you about how the fun thing is watching sport.
It is 2 minutes to 8 a.m. So that is why I have just woken up. This is my first coffee of the day. So thank you very much, Lorna.
Indeed. So, track's looking beautiful, as it always does. Do we reckon we'll have a yellow flag in the session? I think maybe people will be pushing. We're pushing a little bit more in the session. I think we might see people.
We might have someone either taking a trip into the gravel or possibly into the barriers. I doubt it. Max explaining to Mr. Christian Horner at the moment. He's looking quite happy and chipper, though. Looks like he's ready to get into the car for FP2.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing as well in talking about the yellow flags and otherwise. In the first session, the only major incident we had, there wasn't even a major incident, but the most major incident we had was Zhou Guanyu just going quite wide off. But there was no issues whatsoever, just happened to just take it very wide and then come back onto the track. There were no real issues other than also maybe Sergio Perez also just going on slightly and just ripping a little bit of the AstroTurf up. But nobody really having any issues. Nobody in the gravel, nobody hitting walls or getting proper damage. So I think we might see that this session.
Yes, just looking at the challenger of Carlos Sainz at the moment, and certainly he is one to be looking forward to and looking at for this entire race weekend and for the rest of the season, as his engineers just look underneath his car there, maybe just checking the floor a little bit. But I think certainly Carlos Sainz is now the number one driver at Ferrari. He's outshone Charles Leclerc at all of the races.
Consistently.
Yes, consistently, as you say, he has outshone Charles Leclerc, and he has now proven himself to be that number one driver at the Ferrari team. Do you guys agree with me in the comment section? I know that's a little bit of a controversial opinion, but I think it's only fair. He has proven himself to be the stronger of the two drivers, and yeah, we're just waiting for the session to get underway now, and it is 8 a.m. We should have it. And there's my alarm to normally wake up. But that now does indicate that we have the start of the session now getting underway.
And Zhou Guanyu, who went off quite relatively badly, leads us all out into this second session. Sargeant and Russell following him, as well as many other drivers on the grid. As we see a whole lot and a whole host make their way out onto the track. And Reece has got his volume on his phone again. So F1 Edit's asking in the comments here saying, why were Mercedes slow in FP1? Well, as I said earlier, they did not do any soft tyre running, so that is one of the main reasons. And then Not a Raccoon here joining us again. Great to see you here saying, just saw a clip of Charles steering the car as much as he can to the left, and the car is still going straight. A tractor indeed. Well, so a little bit of problems for Ferrari there.
Well, hopefully they shouldn't have too many issues. We have the first riders all out on track at the moment doing their outing laps, their sighting laps. We currently have Zhou, Sargeant, Russell, Sainz, Lawson, Stroll, Albon, Alonso, and Norris out on track. Sorry, scratch that, not Norris, out on track. He's still in the pit lane, but we still have Norris, Hamilton, Bottas in the pit lane currently making their way out onto track. And then we should get the rest of the grid making their way quite soon as well.
Indeed. So I've just finished a fantastic hot chocolate that has really got my spirits up here for free practice 2, and now I'm very much looking forward to what's going to happen in this session. So Alonso is also out there, both Aston Martin drivers out there very early on. I'm really hoping to see some improvement from them this weekend, especially Lance Stroll. Can he actually finish a race? So let's see. Yeah, and also again, I want to see if Piastri can also speed up a little bit after that first session. He was looking.
I just thought there's a McLaren off the map. On Formula One's graphics, there was just a McLaren kind of glitching off into no man's land. But yes, we now do have that all sorted. We have the first few runners currently on our screens finally making their way around the circuit. Who do you think is going to take the top of the timing sheets in the first 10 minutes here, Mark? Do you think Max Verstappen's going to take it immediately, or do you think
he's not out and he wasn't ready to get into his car anytime soon? Perez is out there. I think Perez will be up there. And Norris has also made his way out there. Everybody's pretty much out. Just Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri have yet to make their way out onto track. So I'm going to say Sainz probably leads it because he's currently out right now.
Okay, interesting to hear that. We will wait for the first few runners to start their hot laps. We have George Russell starting a hot lap now. as well as Logan Sargeant, Zhou Guanyu as well, starting a hot lap, a whole bunch of people finally finishing up their out laps and starting their first hot laps of FP2. Do be sure to let us know all of your opinions down in the comment section, as well as let us know anything that we may have missed. We aren't perfect, of course, so please do be sure to help us if we do miss anything, and let us know. George Russell goes fastest in the first sector right now. Logan Sargeant not able to match that time. That's understandable in the Williams, but let's see what Logan Sargeant and George Russell are able to do throughout the rest of their push lap right now.
Yeah, lots and lots of traffic building right before the start of their hot laps here. As you can just see AlphaTauri's and that's Lewis Hamilton's car. They're just all getting very, very close together and all bunched up just before starting their first hot laps of free practice 2. Now, notably, I think we are still testing. I think the testing tyres are still there, and I think they're still being used. We'll have to confirm. I do see a lot of hards being used right now as well. So
I would expect everyone to go out on hards at the moment, do some race runs, and then go out on quali runs a little bit later in the afternoon. But if you do say there are still some test tyres out there, then there may be some split strategies again in terms of testing, because they have those test tyres. Yuki Tsunoda starts his hot lap now. George Russell is coming through the middle sector. He has finished up his lap, though. As I say that, he finishes it on those hard tyres with a 134.3.
So already much quicker start to this session than we had in the previous session, I can tell you that much. We were only in the 136s when we started the previous session. It moved very quickly to much quicker times. And we do see now, Sainz crosses the line at 133.7, moves himself to the top of the time boards.
Just having to wait for the Formula 1 lap boards to come up for us so we can tell you what tyres everyone is on. But at the moment, Carlos Sainz does lead everyone at the moment. Lance Stroll in second. Fernando Alonso steals it away. He takes second position now. Fernando Alonso now goes down to third as Alex Albon beats out the Ferrari.
Well, you keep saying this entire weekend is going to be Williams' weekend to try and find some pace. So Alex Albon now does go into first place. Sainz just behind him. Alonso in third right now. Lindy, we're in the comments saying, morning, everybody. Well, hello. How are you? Hope you guys are all well. Those of you who are waking up from your long slumbers must be nice.
We've been up past 3. But nonetheless, always glad to be here with you. Lando Norris is currently setting the timing boards alight. A purple first and second sector. He's currently finishing up the final sector. Sergio Perez goes fastest overall. Now, Valtteri Bottas steals it away from Sergio Perez. Lando Norris is about to steal that as well in the next few seconds. I am sure Lando Norris, not a good final sector. Only goes 7th.
Yeah, indeed. Not a great final sector for Lando Norris. It's awesome. Probably just had a little bit of a small issue. We'll probably see a replay of exactly why that's happened. A few more people saying good morning and joining us now on the stream. You see, more people have woken up for this one. They couldn't be bothered to wake up so early for the first session. We've got Amelia joining us in the comments from Germany, and Ditta also joining us from Denmark. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. And here we go. Not a raccoon saying, a man Albono deserves. Yes, so Albon doing very well there. As now Bottas has gone quickest. They're 133.1 and Perez behind him. And you see these testing tyres are still being used. So that's what I thought I saw. So a lot of the testing tyres still being used out there today.
Majority of the runners have decided to put those testing tyres on immediately, get them out of the way, and then they can continue with their normal run plans. For the rest of the day, they'll probably do about five laps on these tyres. They've done 2 already, the majority of the runners. Lewis Hamilton on the run right now. He comes through towards curve 9. What happens to him here?
Same as earlier.
To the exit, just gets over that curve a little bit too much, running the curves a bit too wide. And then Hamilton asks, is my floor okay? And then gets told, well, just have to take a look. Yeah, certainly not what he wants to be doing right now. He's currently on those test tyres, but has made that mistake twice already.
I was about to say, he did it in the first practice session. He's not done it again, where he's just ridden that curve a little bit too much and just scraped the floor slightly. F123 joining us in the comments. Hello, how are you? And then Lindy also saying, I've already made my peace with the fact that you're not going to be watching FP1 and FP3. Can't have it all. Well, trust me, I'll probably be in the same boat as you, but we have to do this. It is the job.
But you can have it all if you're watching Forever Motorsports, because we bring you everything, all the coverage for the fans, by the fans. So, yes, we're currently watching Oscar Piastri starting a hot lap now. What can he do? Will he be able to match that of his teammate? He goes fastest in the first sector. Will he be able to continue that run into the second and third sector? We have Max Verstappen currently on an out lap as well. He's finally out on track. What tyres is he on, though? We'll have to wait and see till those graphics finally come up for us.
Yes, indeed. Piastri now starting a hot run here, and he's got a purple first sector. So That's going to be very good to see. I wanted to see some more pace from Oscar Piastri in that McLaren. Hopefully he's going to find it now. Now his teammate lost a lot of time in that third sector, which put him down only in 8th. Can Oscar Piastri find some more time in the second and third sector to push him right up to the top? Maybe ahead of that Alfa Romeo of Bottas, who currently leads the session.
Rod Shepard currently in the comment section letting us know he's joining us after he's had lunch there. I think he's in Thailand normally, if I'm not mistaken. Thanks, Rod. You're having lunch. We haven't even had breakfast yet.
Breakfast is coming.
Yes, it is coming.
Just like
It is
winter.
coming.
Just like winter is coming, breakfast is coming too.
Oscar Piastri making his way through the second sector at the moment. Not a purple middle sector, but still a personal best for himself, a 42.1. Not a bad time as he finishes his lap and goes into second place. Brilliant lap time from Oscar Piastri, finally putting together a good lap on a set of mediums.
One has to wonder, though, why on earth Bottas has managed to get a quicker time than everybody else. What did he do in his lap? Because
I think those testing tyres, you have to understand that they're not the same for every single team. Those testing tyres are a mixed bag. So one team may have a testing tyre that's a soft, another team may have a testing tyre that's a hard. So you can't even compare all of these testing tyres on the board, Mark. Sorry, a lot of information for you.
No, it's just more. I'm thinking normally they only test one tyre compound, so we'll have to go and check.
That, unfortunately,
Okay,
they do. With the testing compounds, it is a bit of a mixed bag. As we see, Carlos Sainz has gone even faster. He has now put himself back up into second place with the fastest final sector. Max Verstappen out on track with a set of softs at the moment. He's gone fastest in the first and second sector, making his way now through the final sector. Where will he put himself on that timing board? We'd expect him to be very, very fast though out there right now.
Yeah, indeed. He's going to cross the line now at 131, sorry, 0.377. Almost the exact same time.
He's got a tear off stuck somewhere on his car. Just looking behind his head there, he has a tear off ever so slightly stuck, causing a bit of turbulence, but that shouldn't upset the aerodynamics of that car all too much.
Yeah, and F123 saying, I missed practice one because I didn't know the times changed. Why are we starting so early? Well,
we're in Japan.
We're in Japan. Japan is they don't do it at night. The race is not at night circuit, so therefore they don't try and make the times friendly for the rest of the world. They don't have it later on in the day. It's actually very friendly for those in Asia, for New Zealanders, Thailand, Philippines, China. You know, those sort of countries. You guys are going to be loving life.
But yeah. But just moving back to what's happening out on track, Lando Norris has moved himself back up into second place. Charles Leclerc has moved himself up into third, and Sergio Perez has improved on his lap time, and he's up in fourth now. Just rewatching this replay from Max Verstappen, just look how smooth his car is, Mark. There's no corrections on the steering wheel. You can see the car is absolutely planted out on track. It's not dancing around or bouncing around. It is just so flat and so well positioned out on track. The suspension is perfect. The aerodynamics are perfect on that car. It is just looking the absolute form of the field once again out there.
Indeed, it's exactly that. Now, watching Gasly go around on a set of mediums, though, the time has disappeared for some reason. He is still on that hot lap there for Pierre Gasly. Let's see how he fares compared to Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen notably did finish that lap on a set of softs. So
Norris on a set of mediums, Leclerc on a set of test tyres. So, a bunch of different tyres currently at the top of the timing boards, but we'll have to wait until all of them get on respective tyres. Bit of a lock-up from Pierre Gasly as he makes his way into the hairpin in turn 11. Hopefully he won't lose too much time from that, but certainly it will affect his momentum a little bit as he comes through into the middle sector. What can he do on this lap time? Gasly at the moment up on his personal best in the middle sector. No purple sectors though at the moment. A 42.082 in that middle sector. Now coming through the final sector. What will his lap time be? As he approaches the finish line, he comes and puts himself up into P7 with a 133.421.
Yeah, so not too bad from the Alpine driver, Pierre Gasly there. As again, I alluded to it earlier, is that he's actually suddenly found himself in a little bit of a driver's championship battle with Lance Stroll. Because Lance Stroll's really been rather shocking these last 4 or 5 races in terms of points, and Gasly has gained quite a bit of ground up on him due to that podium finish, of course, he had a couple of weekends ago. So let's see if he can go and beat Lance Stroll this weekend, in which case it will push him ahead of Lance Stroll. Piastri now doing another fast lap on medium tyres.
Yes, as you say, Oscar Piastri on another hot lap on mediums. He put in a good first and second sector now as he is coming through the final sector. Guys, do be sure to please hit that like button. It's my birthday today. So as a birthday present, you can hit that like button to get the stream doing a little bit better. We're watching Lewis Hamilton. He's still not running his new helmet though today.
No, very upsetting. Hopefully he'll be running it tomorrow or maybe for qualifying in the race itself. But yeah, it's not being run right now in this session. Maybe there were problems with it. Maybe it didn't abide with rules or things.
Well, of course it would have. Lando Norris's Chrome one was within the rules, so certainly Lewis Hamilton's one should be. Oscar Piastri is now finishing up his lap. He's put himself into P4. Alex Albon has improved on his lap time. He's stolen away that final fastest sector from Max Verstappen, and he has put himself up into third. This Williams is looking extremely, extremely competitive this weekend.
And again, very interestingly to note, the fact that the Williams has now put itself there on the same set of tyres as the competitors around it. So it's not like they're on much softer tyres, which gets them that grip. They're on the medium tyre. So the medium tyre is directly related to the McLaren's medium tyre, the Ferrari medium tyre, and Williams is just as quick as they are.
Please can Williams just keep this livery for the rest of the season. I love this Gulf livery that they have been running. The car looks incredible. Watching Yuki Tsunoda, he has a massive hand of oversteer as he comes through the hairpin in turn 11. He really was fighting with the steering.
Well, I'll tell you something. It would have been quite hilarious. I mean, no offense. It would have been quite hilarious if Yuki Tsunoda... we talked about it just before the start of the session. Oh, my word, that Ferrari getting very much in the way of Kevin Magnussen. Seriously dangerous, and Kevin Magnussen just having a serious issue with that. I think it was Carlos Sainz.
I think it may have been, yes. Just watching now, who's this ending up a lap? This is, big lockup for Valtteri Bottas with Carlos Sainz behind him, just preparing to start another hot lap. I wonder if Valtteri Bottas had to run off there. Doesn't look like it, as now Carlos Sainz does start his hot lap.
So what I was going to say is, wouldn't it be hilarious if Yuki Tsunoda at his home Grand Prix happened to be the first one to go into the gravel or into the wall and cause a yellow flag? Because, I don't want to, but I was just noting earlier we didn't have any major incidents at all. So we reckon this session might well have one. A few people saying happy birthday, Vries. So,
thank you very much. I do see that. Thank you, all of you, for your comments. We're watching now with Carlos Sainz and on board from his front wing as he makes his way through the first sector, through the S's, one of my absolute favourite sectors of this Grand Prix circuit. What is his first sector time, though, at the moment, Mark? I'm just trying to find out. 32.377. He set a slight little few purple mini sectors, but at the moment, just a personal best for him in the first and second sector. He makes his way through the hairpin. Turn 11, looking neat and tidy through there. What can he do through the final sector where it all counts?
Indeed, it's exactly that. So, currently looking at our tables here, we've got that Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari and Williams in the top 5 there. Perez is a little bit quicker this session so far, in 6th position. And Alpine's Ocon is in 7th. Lance Stroll for Aston Martin in 8th. We haven't seen many proper runs from Alonso as of yet. He's all the way down in P17, just doing a lot of race simulations, I'm sure, at this point. So we're not going to see his times improve ever too much, I don't think. Doing some high fuel runs, one imagines, as he has got 5 laps behind his name, which is a little bit more than some of the grid. Actually, having said that, most of the grid have done about 6 or 7. So, yeah, maybe he's just getting ready to go again. He is out on track. A few people have made their way into
Sainz moves himself up into second. I'm sure you did mention that already. A very good lap time from him with a 1:32.085, the closest we've gotten to Max Verstappen's time from anyone else at the moment. Sergio Perez is also on a flyer. He's on a set of test tyres at the moment. He's still got a lot of high flow or high vis paint in the back of his car coming out the diffuser. So still doing some testing to his floor.
Leclerc has a purple second sector, so let's see what he can do for the rest of this thing as he does. Sorry, just noting it there. A 1:31.7, much closer to Max Verstappen's time. Max Verstappen went out right at the beginning of the session on a set of softs. Put 4 laps in and then went back into the pits, and his very first lap, of course, a 1:31.377. So basically just saying to the rest of the field, stop thinking that you guys are half decent. Here's how quick my car is. Now I'm going to go back to the pits just so you can see his name in number 1 the whole weekend, basically. I feel like that's genuinely what Max Verstappen's done here and the team, because in both sessions they went out to go and put a flying lap straight away, and then they'll go and do some more testing after that. Pretty much just to go and say, you guys are not as quick as us, stop trying.
I think pretty much setting the benchmark. Max Verstappen is, though, on an outlap. I would expect him to go even faster on a set of mediums. The track has rubbered up now quite a lot. It would have maybe just washed off a little bit after the first session. Just watching this moment from Valtteri Bottas, him having this massive locking up, but he was very good on the brakes to be able to manage it. You can see just how he feathers the brakes there and just manages that lock up a little bit and was able to stay within the track limits, but there is a bit of a flat spot on those new test tyres now.
Yeah, now watching a replay of Sergio Perez, and let's see, he also has a bit...
Same tyres,
exactly the same.
Same corner.
I was about to say, same corners, notably also interesting there. And now watching a replay of that is it Logan Sargeant?
Albon
No,
now coming through. I think this is turn 9.
Oh, my
Oh, he
word.
gets very wide there, and he says there's for sure floor
same
damage.
place as Hamilton as well. So that's proving
All
to be a
these
bit of a...
drivers getting caught out by the exit of turn 9. It's a very difficult exit, and it's just before that tricky chicane, or sorry, the tricky hairpin. But it's very difficult there on that exit, and if you do go too wide, you're going to damage your floor. What you laughing about there, Mark?
No, I'm just seeing Not a Raccoon going and saying in the comments here, saying, wish every race was like Singapore. Of course, this being in reference to the fact that Verstappen is doing a lot better than most of the grid yet again, saying probably, that's going to be another one of those Max Verstappen
front row
lockouts. Yeah. So, yes, indeed. I mean, quite frankly, apart from anything else, goes into my next topic. We're starting to obviously end off the season. Max Verstappen will surely win the Drivers' Championship within the next 3 or 4 races. One imagines as well
he gets his first opportunity to take the championship next weekend or next race weekend in Qatar.
Yeah. So, of course, with that looming over everybody's heads, everyone knows it's a for sure thing. We've got to have to start talking about next season. Now, I reckon next season will surely have to be much more competitive.
I think off the back of this season, when a lot of teams have abandoned their cars already early on because they've seen how fast and competitive the Red Bulls are, they've had to abandon early on. The Ferraris abandoned even before the mid-season point. So we certainly expect them to be hopefully a lot more competitive, a lot more close to the Red Bulls. They would have been affected by their wind tunnel testing as well for next season. So hopefully it sets back Red Bull a little bit and allows other teams to take a step forward in terms of catching up. We're watching Russell at the moment through the middle sector. He's currently doing all right at the moment, setting a personal best in the first and second sector. Sargeant moves himself up into 5th with the fastest final sector yet again.
Yeah, I mean, these Williams are really doing very, very well. Sargeant as well, obviously being one of those drivers. Verstappen is currently now doing a hot lap, I believe.
Russell has finished his lap as well. He moves himself up into 3rd with a 132.052. Leclerc is in 2nd with a 131.7. First sub ones for any other team than the Red Bulls. I think you did mention that though a little bit earlier. But good to see though that these other teams are able to get within touching distance of the Red Bulls.
Yeah, now seeing Max Verstappen finishing up a lap here, he's got a few personal bests, a couple of purple mini sectors, but a couple of slower sectors as well. His first sector wasn't as quick as his earlier one. His second sector is a bit personal best though, so he might well come across the line here in a quicker time. Let's see if he does. He's currently on a 131.377. He crosses the line at 131.391, so almost the same. Almost the same, but I think he's now... no, he's still on the softs, it says.
He's doing some race runs as far as I can see. He's doing some long runs. As we have Lewis Hamilton out on those at the moment, going a little bit wide into the exit of turn 8. Turn 9, he keeps it a lot more clean, doesn't ride over that curb, which has damaged his floor already at the exit of turn 9. Now making his way through the hairpin of turn 11 and going towards the rest of the final sector.
Yeah, so I think, quite frankly, apart from anything else, I think we've got a normal poll up. Let's try and change up the poll ever so slightly. Let's put a new poll up, and you guys be sure to go participate in that poll. It's going to be quite an interesting one. And also, whilst you're there, go and smash that like button, please. So our poll that we had running was who are you supporting this weekend? 37% said Red Bull, 30% said Ferrari, 20% said other. McLaren got 11%. One imagines 20% might well have been a couple of Williams drivers and mainly Mercedes. So let's go and have a new poll here. Is do you think the other teams will be competitive next season? And we're going to have definitely as an option, probably not,
and Red Bull dominance.
Somewhat, max, super max. That's going to be the final option there, because that's just saying that it's going to be dominance from Max Verstappen yet again. So be sure to go and participate in that new poll there and let us know your thoughts. Do you think the other teams will be competitive next season, of course, as we head towards the end of this season? Now, Lindiwe in the comments is saying, except Haas and Williams, if I remember correctly, upgrades are still on their way.
Interesting to hear. I'm not too clued up on that. I will have to go and do a little bit more research to let you know. But Yuki Tsunoda currently is putting in a hot lap on a set of test tyres. He's put himself now up into P12 on those tyres. Let's see what he's able to do throughout the rest of the session. There's currently 38 minutes left of the session, looking at all of these passionate Japanese fans with all of their incredible hats, their incredible signs. I just love how passionate
Plus,
these
it's
fans are.
decoration on another level here.
They are just, they take passion to another level. I've always been super impressed by all of these Japanese fans. I'm always impressed by those DRS hats they have. I don't understand how they get it to work. They come here with the DRS adorned in all of their favorite teams' liveries, and they even work. The wing opens.
Yeah, I know.
It's incredible.
I mean, it's also interesting. It's the lovely thing about Formula One is being able to see how different fans around the world celebrate and watch Formula One itself. You know, of course, we've got Zandvoort we had a couple of weeks ago, and you saw the fans there, just unbelievable party goers. I mean, it was raining for ages. We had a delayed start and everything. And the fans there were all loving life in the air and dancing along. The stewards were all dancing along with them.
That's what is essentially, it turns into, during the Grand Prix weekend, it turns into a rave for 3 days.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, that's the sort of vibe you have there. You come to Japan, you see everybody comes out with their homemade stuffs and these really creative designs and otherwise. Being very Japanese, it just shows the type of people in all these different nations. As I said, we go to Netherlands, it's a rave, it's a party for 3 days. Everybody's just having a good time in life in terms of having a proper party. You come to Japan, creativeness and real ingenuity comes into play. You go to Germany and everything's very, well, obviously we don't have a German race in Canada, but you go to Austria as well, it's as similar as you can, and everything's very prim and proper and everyone knows exactly what's supposed to happen, and there's no issues when it comes to a German or an Austrian Grand Prix, so it's always fun. I mean, that's why I say I'd
What
love
are you trying to say, that the Italian Grand Prix fell to shambles?
No, I'm saying the Italian Grand Prix was very Italian, was very all over the top. There was lots of discussions and otherwise flamboyant.
Lando Norris currently out on track, setting a Foster's first sector. Sorry to interrupt our ramblings, Mark, but I think we should get onto on-track action at the moment, as it is starting to pick up once again, as people have all left the pits and are starting to put on some soft tyres. We currently have Hamilton, Sargeant, Russell, and as well as Lando Norris all putting in some really hot laps right now. Lando Norris has put in the fastest first sector, waiting to see what his second sector is going to be like as he crosses that line. Now, it's a personal best, not a purple, but still very good for himself.
It's quicker than Max Verstappen's second sector.
Is it?
Yes.
Interesting.
So that could mean that this will be the new fastest time of the day. So let's follow Norris very closely as he comes to the final corner.
As now Lando Norris, as you say, moves himself into the final corner and goes fastest overall with the 131.1. So these Red Bulls certainly have some challenge here this weekend.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see Max Verstappen come out on a set of softs again, with much lighter fuel load and probably go and beat that quite significantly. But for now, Norris has put a competitive time there, which goes ahead of Verstappen's time, the first time to beat Verstappen today. Not to Bakut saying Japanese fans are creative AF, indeed. And Alex S. jokingly saying, when you ask competitive, does that mean only 15 seconds behind?
Yes, only 15 seconds, no longer than 15. Just seeing all of these fans, they are just always so happy to be in the grandstand, so happy to be at a Formula One race. Just waiting to see Oscar Piastri's car. Is he on a I was going to say Lando Norris goes faster, but that's his time that he put in already. Is Oscar Piastri just ramping up for another hot lap? I think he is. Yes, he is, as he has now started another hot lap out on track on a set of softs now.
Yeah, indeed. So we're going to see how quick his teammate, that being Lando Norris' teammate, can be. As Lando Norris set the benchmark now, 131.152. Can Piastri get close to that?
Alex Albon moves up into third place now, Mark, behind Max Verstappen with the 131.555. Alex Albon is so rapid out on track. I'm loving this to bits.
Yeah, so these Williams are looking very quick. It's a good indicator for tomorrow's qualifying sessions. And also the interesting thing is they've been quick on medium tyres and otherwise. So that'd be race simulations and things. So means that hopefully Williams have got a bit of pace for the race weekend as well. Maybe Alex Albon can get some more points this weekend. And again, it comes back to that same question then. Where does Alex Albon move? Because surely he doesn't stay at Williams unless Williams becomes an even more competitive car. I doubt it in the next season. But, I mean, surely big teams look at Alex Albon and say, we have to have him. We have to have him.
Well, certainly big teams will be wanting him because he is just outperforming that car, outpacing it really, and dragging it and dragging every single bit of pace out of that car that's possible. Oscar Piastri doing quite well now in the middle sector of 41.3. I think that's a little bit down on his teammates' time. It is, but he goes up into P4. Not too bad for himself there. Still behind Alex Albon, but in the 131s.
Yeah, indeed, in the 131s, crucially, so that's all right there. And I'm sure F123 is going to be quite happy with Norris in first right now. A few people saying in the comments again, Marriott joining us again, saying, hi guys, and not a raccoon saying, damn, Norris, indeed, because his time has really set a bit of a benchmark there. Let's see if other drivers can beat it. Verstappen's back in the pits, though, so maybe he'll gear up and get ready to get going outside of there right now.
Yes, well, we'll wait and see whether Max Verstappen does get out the pits again. I'm sure he will. He's currently only done 6 laps out there today. The driver with the most laps, though, under their belt already this afternoon is Yuki Tsunoda with 12 laps in this session. And Hülkenberg is close behind on 11. So, just watching at the moment who's out on track. We've got Piastri, Magnussen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, and Bottas currently out on track. A little bit slower or a little bit quieter out on track as we have a bunch of people.
Sorry, I just want to say there's a purple sector here getting put in by Leclerc. I was noting some purple mini sectors. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a quick second time. So Leclerc now on a fast lap here on set of softs has gone quickest in the second sector, had a personal best in the first sector. Let's see what he can do in the final sector now as he's coming across the final corner here, and he'll come across the line now. Will he push himself into first? He does. A 131 dead. Well,
very, very
almost
close
dead. A 131.008. So fantastic. We're going to see some sub 131s.
I did say we would get into the sub 130s eventually. And I think we might get even closer than that, down to the 129s eventually, because I wasn't expecting to get to the 130s until tomorrow, Mark.
Yeah, indeed. So we've seen some very quick times get put in from a few drivers now. Again, Ferrari and McLaren very close to each other. My word, look at that. It's just 1.4 seconds between Leclerc and Norris. So very, very close together. Perez now crosses the line on a set of softs as well, but 0.7 seconds down in Leclerc.
These softs are a lot older now. He's been running around on these for quite some time.
Yeah,
but Carlos Sainz now coming through the middle sector to finish up his lap. He's also on a set of old softs.
He's got 2 personal bests, yeah. 2 personal bests as he comes into the final 3 corners of the track and does very well there. Now, just the final corner here before coming across the start-finish straight. Where does he put himself? I think he'll probably move into second, I reckon. And here he moves into third.
I was going to say maybe third behind Lando Norris. Lando Norris put in a brilliant lap time there. And he does. He moves into third with a 131.237. Really, really close at the moment between the top 3. Charles Leclerc's time being a 138.008. Lando Norris being a 131.152 and Carlos Sainz with a 131.237. So, top 3 currently only separated by 0.2297.
Yeah, so very, very close times together there. The Vries and the McLarens certainly competing, and the Red Bulls will be there, obviously, of course, as well. The Williams also doing half decently, but now watching a replay of Yuki Tsunoda again. Does he have that same issue again? Oh, dear.
Big snap of oversteer as he makes his way through the exit of turn 9. Lucky to hold on to it and lucky not to go over the curbs too much there, Mark.
Indeed, man. Let's just see if he does any floor damage. No, he just avoids it.
He holds it. You have to go onto that MSC marker so that the ridge of that curb goes onto your floor to cause damage. Luckily, he didn't.
Now
watching Charles Leclerc make his way through turn 8, the approach to turn 9. He's well within track limits there, but he might want to be a little bit more cautious not to go over those green curves, which are a lot more aggressive.
Indeed. Now we can see Fernando Alonso gearing up to get going with another lap here. I think it is. No, it's not. No, it is Fernando Alonso. He's got a new helmet for this weekend, so it's just off-putting. It's a white helmet for Fernando Alonso. He normally sports the yellow. So, yeah, nice little special helmet there for Fernando Alonso as he starts a hot lap here. I'm very keen to see what he can do here because, of course, I think Aston Martin should be all right this weekend, and Alonso, we know how brilliant he is. So, starting this hot lap, let's see how close he can get to Leclerc's time. 31.98 seconds in that first sector. So, a personal best by quite some distance there for Alonso this session. Let's see what he can do.
Off the pace at the moment. He's looking very neat and tidy through his steering inputs. It's looking very, very calm and relaxed under there. He's up on Leclerc's first sector, so I thought he was actually all right. Let's see what he can do now through the middle sector. Looking neat and tidy through turn 9. Not going too wide there of the curbs. Now approaching turn
Purple mini sector.
Purple mini sector, as you say there, Mark. Making his exit through the hairpin. Now keeping my eye on the time board as he makes his way through that final sector. What can he do in terms of lap times? Will he be able to put himself in contention for the top 3? We'll have to wait and see what he's able to do.
I'm saying
now.
4th position. That's what I'm going to predict right now. As he's coming around the final bench. I'm going to say 4th for Alonso. Here he comes across the line. And he moves into 5th.
Not bad. Very, very close though. Still within the 131s.
Yeah, so good time there for Alonso, but I'm sure you can get quicker. I'm sure you can go around a little bit quicker there.
It just shows you how close our top 10 is. The entire top 10 is at the moment 0.7 seconds within each other.
Yeah, 0.78 seconds from first to 10th. So very, very good to see everyone nice and close together. And I'm sure we'll see some quicker times get put in as we've still got 28 minutes left of the session. And Larry saying hello there, of course. And Lindirio saying Alonso's helmet is a nod to the Japanese samurai. He has been a fan since his teen years. Well, very, very creative. Thank you very much for that information.
Yes, Fernando Alonso, as well as Zhou Guanyu, Lewis Hamilton, and I think some other drivers as well have some special helmets this weekend. Just watching this replay from Kevin Magnussen, he got so close to, I think that's one of the AlphaTauris. That might have been Liam Lawson there, just on the racing line. Glad he was not collected. Just watching Zhou Guanyu coming through turn 9 again. He goes wide of the curbs. Massive curb strike on his floor, and you can really see how that upsets the car. Possibly some floor damage to him as well.
Yeah, you can just see this turn 9 has really been a big problem for a lot of drivers.
Big curb strike on the floor there. You can see how beached he gets there, Mark. Yeah. Max Verstappen putting in another hot lap at the moment. Fastest in the first sector. Up in the middle sector. What can he do now in the final sector? He is coming through those final few corners now. Where does he put himself even faster? The first driver into the 130s this weekend. A 130.688.
Yeah, so as I said, Verstappen would go to the top there very shortly as soon as he gets out again on a set of softs. And he has done so. So yeah, moves back into first position. But again, hopefully more of the drivers will find
ahead.
Yeah, hopefully more drivers will find some pace there because I'm sure there is some pace to be found there. So not too concerning yet. I know everybody will go and say, "Oh, it's Max Verstappen first again," but you know everyone else is not too far behind that, and I think race pace has been good for a lot of teams as well. So let's hopefully see that get put in. Some more times get put in before the end of the session. They're getting closer.
I know I keep saying it, but that Red Bull is just absolutely phenomenal around the track. It just looks so comfortable through all the corners. The way that it rides through those corners, it doesn't get upset by the curbs. Sorry.
Just noting, Russell here is putting in a very, very quick lap here. He might be able to compete with Max Verstappen here because he's put in a seriously good first sector time. A purple mini sector in that first sector. That second sector is also been quite good now, as we're going to see him come up to a 41.022. So that's already better than most of the grid as well. So this could be very close to Max Verstappen's time. I reckon into second place, and perhaps even challenging depending on what he can do in this final sector. Yeah, so the Mercedes also now showing and strutting their stuff. Let's see as he comes around the final bend here and comes across the finish line. Russell will move into fifth. Slowed down in that last sector.
Faster. I was really quite concerned there for Max Verstappen's time. But he holds on to that first position
very odd.
a little bit longer.
Very, very odd, of course, because he went around quite a lot quicker than most of the drivers quite ahead of him. So lost a bit of time there in the final sector, I think.
But good to see that these Mercedes do have pace around the circuit. We expected them to have some pace. What tyres is George Russell on? He is on a set of softs, so they are representative. But yeah, just not fast enough just yet. So, hopefully they'll find a little bit more time.
Just seeing that he actually was quicker than Max Verstappen in the second sector and was almost as quick in the third sector, but his first sector time was well down on Max Verstappen's time.
Max Verstappen's first sector time is a 31.5. George Russell's is a 32.1. So still quite a little bit of time to find out.
So the interesting thing is the fact that most of the drivers are on about the cusp of 32 seconds for that first sector, but Max Verstappen with 31.5 just shows much quicker than Red Bull.
Just watching here, he did run a little bit wide into turn 9's exit again. Not too wide, but a little bit of curb striking. Nothing too bad though. We're watching Lando Norris. Is he on another hot lap at the moment, Mark? No.
Yeah,
no, he's not.
No. I think he's just doing some race simulations right now.
I do think he is. Someone asked a little bit earlier what a red time means on the timing boards. It just means it's not a personal best or a overall best through that sector. So you can see Lando Norris' middle sector is lit up as a 43.5. It's just lights up red because it's not faster than anything previous they have put down.
Indeed. So, of course, we're going to see some more race simulations now for the next 24 laps. I'm sure we'll see some quicker times. I want to see Hamilton get around and do his fast lap attempts. I'm sure we'll see that very shortly. And Logan Sargeant as well. I want to see what he can do in that Williams as well. I mean, he goes for another soft lap attempt. Now Norris starting another one. Let's see if he's going to go for it now. Is he going to gun it?
DRS is closed, so it is another race simulation. But very interesting to see what these cars are all able to do in race trim. We'll certainly be watching what these lap times that they are putting down is. Lando Norris passes one of the Mercedes there. I think that is George Russell. Or might be...
No, it's Hamilton.
It's Lewis Hamilton, sorry, as you say. Very, very interesting. Not many people out on track. The majority of the grid in the pit right now. Lando Norris, George Russell, Alex Albon and Piastri are currently on outlaps. as well as Hamilton's on an outlap
So-
and Sargeant. Looking though at the fastest sector, taken by 3 different constructors right now. Mark.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. The first sector, of course, Verstappen quite significantly there. The second sector is taken by Leclerc and Ferrari, and the third sector by Albon in the
Very
Williams.
interesting. I think that third sector is taken by Albon because their car is just so fast down those straights. They've got those 2 long straights in that second or in the third sector, so that is why that Williams is just so fast.
Indeed. So Norris now, of course, finishing up a lap here for a race simulation. Let's see what sort of time he puts in terms of representing a race pace for McLaren, and it comes across the line at 1:37.1. So quite a distance off of the fastest times, but I think there's a high fuel load here for Norris. Now, also going back to the poll that we put up earlier, saying, do you think other teams will be competitive next season? Good to know that 42% of you reckon definitely. 19% unfortunately say probably not. 19% again say somewhat, and 19% again say max, super max. So yeah, people still backing Max to be quite quick next season, and but I'd say majority of you are hoping that it's going to be a bit more competitive next season. Most of you voting for the definitely point out of the 4 options. So hopefully we will see much quicker teams next season. I'm sure we'll see Mercedes much quicker as Hamilton now starts a fast lap. Let's see what he can do here.
Yes, we're finally getting Lewis Hamilton on a set of softs. He puts in the first sector 32.2, really far off the pace of Max Verstappen's 31.5. Within his teammates' first sector, though, I think that was the 32.1 or also 32.2. Let's see what he can do through the middle sector now. He comes through those S's neat and tidy through there. He approaches that turn 9 where he's bottomed out quite a bit. We'll wait and see whether he does that now. Approaching that turn, let's see what he can do. He comes through turn 8, neat and tidy through there. Turn 9, does he keep it within? Yes, he does. A little bit of bottoming out, but looking neat through there. What can he do through the second sector? Comes through that marker. That second sector now lights up for us. What is that time? It is a 41.4.
Still well off the
0.4
time.
off of Max Verstappen's middle sector time. What can you do now through that final sector?
Yeah, so it's definitely not going to be a very quick time for Lewis Hamilton here. It's going to be quite a slow time. He's coming right now at the final corner, and let's see what time he puts in. As he does cross the finish line now, and
14th.
only into 14th. Yeah, so as I said, quite a slow time for Lewis Hamilton. A 1:31.8. Hopefully he's going to go around again, and it'll be a little bit quicker than that, but that was quite disappointing. Maybe he has a moment somewhere in the track that we didn't quite see on our screens yet, but I don't see it. Yeah, just slow.
It's really weird because maybe the Mercedes are just on high fuel runs, but you wouldn't think so with the DRS wide open like the way he's doing. It looks like they maybe just don't have the pace, or maybe Hamilton's just not comfortable with the car setup as much as George Russell is right now.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Angie in the comments saying, Lass, it's 7:30 in the morning. What's happening? Yeah, it's early. It's early, but it wasn't as early as the first session, which was at 4:30 in the morning. So yeah, we were up very early this morning to go and commentate for you guys, and thank you to those who joined us for that. It was very much appreciated. Now looking at the Ferrari versus Mercedes Constructors Championship battle here. We can see Ferrari come right back at Mercedes after Singapore there. But Mercedes still in the lead, 289 points compared to Ferrari's 265. But if Ferrari have a good weekend this weekend, as it looks like they could well do, as Leclerc and Sainz are going around quite a bit quicker than the Mercedes right now. They could edge the Mercedes.
And this, of course, Mark, is for that second place in the Constructors' Championship. It is still all to play for, especially with the Ferrari's resurgence in the last part of the season. They could well upset the Mercedes and take away their second place in the Constructors' Championship. We've got Fernando Alonso currently on an outlap. Is he on an outlap or is he on a push lap right now? I think he's on an outlap.
It says outlap.
Yes, he is on an outlap. He's on another set of softs. I think they are a scrub set, so not brand new. But we'll have to wait and see whether he does put in any faster times. If he does, then we would expect them to be a newer set. Just watching a replay of Alexander Albon coming into the final chicane here. Does he get caught out a little bit by traffic? Or does he just takes the curbs a little bit too aggressively, turns in a little bit too early, and just takes a little bit too much curb there. But car's all right. He does make a little bit of a correction and finishes up his lap.
Still on those testing tyres, I noticed Alex Albon here. Now also watching a replay of Lewis Hamilton also hit a curb a little bit aggressively there. Bounces a little bit up and then scrapes the front wing a little bit on the floor.
Front floor. It's the front end plate or the edge of the floor. Just watching Fernando Alonso, he is now ramping up to start this hot lap. Comes through the final chicane and pedal to the metal now as he does. come
I
down
think
that start-finish straight.
I think it's a race simulation because I'm not sure his DRS is going to open. Yeah, indeed, his DRS does not
it's
open.
closed.
So yeah, so it is just a race simulation. So we're going to see a lot of race simulations here. But again, we saw a 137 get put in by Norris. You've also seen a 137 now again by Piastri as well. So that looks like the race pace on the medium tyre for McLaren on high fuel. Let's see what Alonso can do in comparison to that. So just remember that number. 137 is what we're looking at. We see now Leclerc also for race pace 137.5. So again, we're seeing these race pace simulations coming in. Max Verstappen's also going around. He's putting a 141.2. I don't know what tyres he's on. Very interesting that he's gone quite slow there. Maybe he just had a couple of blunders.
Who was that? Sorry?
Max Verstappen going a little bit slower. 141.
That might just be a warm-up lap or a double warm-up lap.
Wow.
So just watching Fernando Alonso coming through the middle sector now on these tyres. The helmet is so cool with all of its designs. Paying tribute to the Japanese samurai, we've heard there in the comment section. Track is really busy now for the last 17 minutes of the session. Everyone out there trying to get as much data as possible before the session does end. What can Alonso do, though, on these old sets of softs for his race pace?
Yeah, let's see the race pace of this Aston Martin. As he comes across the line, it'll be a 137.4. So again, it's also in those 137s. So it's the same sort of times we're seeing from those McLarens. Norris just put in a 137.7, Sainz a 137.6, and Alonso's was a 137.4. So interesting there. We're seeing a lot of them, the 137s looks to be the race pace for a lot of these cars right now. But I think Alonso's on the soft tyres, whereas everyone else is still on the medium tyres. So that's probably the reason why he's a little bit quicker. Although, having said that, I think everybody's on softs. Yeah, everybody's on softs.
Everybody is still on those soft tyres right now. I think they're all just extending their run plans and just seeing how long these tyres can last for the race on Sunday. Of course, with them being a bit of a harder compound, they could possibly last long enough to be viable for a stint on Sunday.
Yeah, of course, they haven't got the much harder compound tyres because tyre degradation here in Japan is very high. So likely to see hard tyres, though, being used on Sunday as the main race tyre because that will last the longest and allow people to get round, hopefully, in strategies that allows them to get very far ahead of the rest.
Verstappen is back out on track at the moment. He's out on those testing tyres. Very interesting to see, though, his track dominance versus Leclerc. Leclerc actually has track dominance over the majority of the
longest
space on track.
Yeah.
But Max Verstappen claws it back through those really tricky sectors where that Red Bull just has the dominance in its downforce.
And I still note it's quite interesting this season comparing to last season because it was the complete opposite last season. Last season, the Ferraris were very quick in the corners and in the high downforce areas, whereas the Red Bulls were so much quicker in the straights. This season, we've seen the opposite. We've seen the Ferraris quite quick in the straights, but Red Bull's so quick in those corners.
I think where the Red Bull makes up a lot of time is that its average speed throughout the entire circuit is just so high, and that is why they're able to be so competitive at any circuit on the calendar.
So guys, we did cross over 200 viewers a little bit earlier there. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's keep it building, guys. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll of course be bringing you all the sessions, and you can go and catch the review of FP1 on the channel as well. We posted that up earlier. We'll be posting up a review of Practice 2 as well straight after this session, and then of course you'll get all the various videos throughout the week about F1 news from Reece.
Yes, just watching Verstappen now ending his lap on these testing tyres. He finishes that lap with a 136.449. So a very good lap time from him on those tyres. He finished that. Yeah, 136.449 was that lap time on the testing tyres. We'd expect those possibly to be a medium or a soft testing tyre then.
And that's about 2 seconds quicker than most of the other grid for their race pace. So that's quite scary right now.
Of course, so you can't compare it on these testing tyres. We don't know what the actual compound is.
I don't think these are testing tyres. I think they're softs, aren't they?
No, they're testing tyres.
Okay, well, I think they're testing for softs because they do have red inside lines, and most of these tyres do have slightly different things. So it is a soft tyre, one assumes, one hopes. One certainly hopes. So let's hope that race pace is a little bit quicker for those who are currently doing their times on medium. Science, for example, right now, doing a race simulation on mediums. Let's follow him as well and see what sort of time he puts in.
Yes, he's currently approaching Spoon in the middle sector, coming through turn 13 and 14. A really tricky double left-hander. You have to be able to get your entry right to be able to get your exit correct. As he does now make that exit, approaching 130R, the very fast left-hander. He approaches there in 8th gear now at, I can't see his speed, unfortunately, but he's going really fast through there, normally over 300 kilometers an hour. As he now does come through that braking point, the final 2 braking zones on the circuit, turns 17 and 18. as he now comes through turn 19 to finish up this track.
Yeah, indeed. And 137.89. So again, quite a bit down on the Red Bull time in terms of race pace. Max Verstappen did a 137.4 now recently. He's just done that, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, 137.4. So it's a little bit slower than his previous lap time. So still, the 137s looks to be race pace, basically.
Yes, 137 seems to be a comfortable race pace. Just looking at the oscillations of Carlos Sainz's car as he comes over the curb there a little bit. Just watching the floor, he doesn't break the floor luckily, but he does pick up a little bit of paint or maybe some paper or something over there over the curbs. Just watching now, Liam Lawson just going over the curbs there. As I said, I think the curbs are going to be a bit of a talking point this weekend because these cars are quite sensitive. When you do go over those curbs, it upsets the aerodynamics and it just rattles your driver as well.
Now, it's very interesting, of course, whilst we're talking about that. Obviously, 2026, it has been announced, thank goodness, that me and Reece have also been asking for it for literally years, saying we want a smaller footprint car, and we do have that smaller footprint car. Now, we talk about the aerodynamics.
Not massively, but they are.
It is going to come down a little bit, so it will be a slightly smaller car, which is fantastic. But now, what sort of difference is that going to make in terms of ride height and the floor height and everything, and that in terms of aerodynamics? Because a slightly smaller footprint means that it's not as planted on the ground as these cars are.
So what they're planning to do is they're reducing the weight of the car by an estimated 50 kilograms firstly, and then they will see what they can do from there. But with that reduced weight does come a reduction in size. Of course, you can't reduce the size of the cars all that much because of the MGU-H and the energy systems that are in the car, because they are quite large. So unfortunately, there is a limitation to the size that you can reduce the size of these cars. Just watching Liam Lawson on this current on this current race run that he's doing on these soft tires, there's a little bit of graining on his front left.
He's
but
very slow
out there in the car.
No, 7 seconds off of Verstappen's time, which means that he's going to put himself in the 140s, one imagines, when he comes across the line.
But he has done 19 laps in total out there today, so I think he has maybe been on these tires for quite some time, Mark.
Yeah, indeed. So let's go and see. He comes across the line now, and it will be a 130. Okay, never mind, not too bad. A 138.7. It is a little bit slower than most of them in the race pace wise, but not too bad, I suppose. It's there and thereabouts.
Lewis Hamilton now coming up to the end of his lap. Lewis Hamilton set the race lap record here in 2019, beating Kimi Raikkonen's 14-year record for the race lap record around the circuit. He does finish that lap time, and he puts himself, well, still stays, of course, in 14th. But we don't see what that lap time was, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, indeed. We can see it. So it was a one...
That's an old time.
It is an old time, sorry. Yes, Donnie here joining us from Valcom. We'll join you tomorrow morning at 4:30 as well. So I look forward to it. I'm going to hold it to you. I'm gonna look for you in the comments at 4:30 in the morning tomorrow morning, when we also obviously go live here on Forever Motorsports. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and you can join us early. Look at the dedication, guys. I mean, we're getting up in the middle of the night.
Not just in the middle of the night, it's my birthday, and we got up at 4:30 for that. So, Lewis Hamilton currently coming through that middle sector, coming through the hairpin. He is quite far off the pace, but he's also been running on these soft tyres for quite some time. So everyone just trying to find the absolute limitation of these soft tyres. How long can they run them for on Sunday? That's what they're trying to figure out right now.
I don't imagine that long, and I don't think the soft tyres will be used unless it's a safety car. Otherwise, something happens right towards the end of the race. Because they do, I mean, regardless of how long they could last, you know, the tyre degradation is going to be a problem for them still. And you don't want to risk it. Mediums and hards will surely be going. Russell saying this tyre is only going one way, which is, of course, saying, yeah, understood. We're seeing very high degradation on others on the soft too. So exactly as we had literally just said, just being confirmed by Russell there, the soft tyre is probably not going to be a very preferable tyre on Sunday. The hards most likely going to be the best tyre to run for the race.
You can see Lewis Hamilton really having to lean on those tyres in the final sector, though, in those final two corners in the chicane. He's really struggling a little bit. You can see that those tyres are just starting to fall away from them a bit. But as long as we hear that it's for everyone struggling out on these tyres, the team will be a little bit more optimistic to hear that it's not just them struggling with these tyres. Zhou Guan Yu, it looks like some work is going on in his car at the moment. It might be his floor, as all of those Alfa Romeo engineers are standing in front of the car to kind of just block the camera view right now as they are lifting it up to do some work on it.
Yeah, indeed. And we did see that earlier at the exit of turn 9, really ramped the floor up. As we see, Oscar Piastri does the exact same thing and also just goes off quite badly there. So,
not the greatest to cause damage to your car in the final few moments. Luckily, he went quite wide there, so he shouldn't have caused too much damage. But he may have just kicked a little bit of gravel over onto the track. Just watching
now,
Logan Sargeant also doing the exact same thing. Going a little bit wider, but you just see as they get to the end of that Astro, there's a big drop off there, and that is what can cause damage to that car.
So turn 9 has been a big problem for almost all the drivers today. It's been the major issue. Now, are we going to see somebody into the wall at turn 9? Because it's going to be a very difficult recovery zone of the track because it is right underneath that bridge. That is the bridge section.
It is a difficult section of the track to recover cars from. We've had cars lose it there in the past. I think we lost Lance Stroll there in the race last year, or I think we lost him there at some point last year, if I remember.
I'm sure we've lost Lance Stroll everywhere.
As you said, it's a very difficult part of the track to recover a car because it is on that crossover point. This is the only Formula One circuit on the current Formula One calendar that has a figure 8 layout. So the track does come and cross over, and that is from that turn 9 point and the 130R turn 14 or 15 on the track that cover or that cross over each other. It's turn 15 and turn 9.
And Orville just saying in the comments, happy birthday. So
Thank you very much,
there you go, some birthday wishes coming in there. And I just want to talk about the reason why turn 9 is also a bit of a problem. The problem is, you see, people come into turn 9 wanting to get a really good exit because there's a little bit of a straight there after turn 9 heading into the second sector. So you want to try and exit as best you can. So people get onto the accelerator early to try and get some pace straight away. And that's the problem, is that they sometimes run a little bit wide and they go over that curb there. It's quite a dangerous curb because it really does damage the floor. We've seen that already. Joe Guanyu clearly in the pits fixing up the floor due to him doing that earlier in the session. And we've just watched lots of replays of all similar drivers doing the same thing. Now, watching a replay of Lando Norris comes into the pits, does he not slow down enough?
He locks up his brakes. He should hopefully make it to that speed limit, otherwise he might get a little bit of a reprimand. It is practice too, though, so he shouldn't get any penalties. I wish they did here, though, what they did or what they do in Fuji for the World Endurance Championship. In Fuji, they have this thing called Tourist Safari or Motorsport Safari or something like that. So during one session of the year in World Endurance Championships, they have all of the race cars out on track, but at the same time, they have tourist buses out on track on an active World Endurance Championship circuit. The buses all stick to the outside of the circuit, and then they all get on-track action and can get as close as you possibly can to a race car. That is incredible. That must be an incredible experience to have. I mean, could you imagine having that with Formula One cars?
Absolutely awesome, but you'll never see it happen with Formula One because the danger levels are just next level. These cars, I mean, World Endurance Championship cars are damn fast, but nothing compared to Formula One, let's be honest.
They're very similar. Those hypercars are very, very similar to the Formula One cars in terms of pace, but I don't think we'll have it in Formula One.
We'll never see it in Formula One.
But it is an incredible spectacle to have in World Endurance Championships.
Yeah, so Stroll now coming on a race simulation with just 5 minutes left to go now in this session. Let's see what Stroll can do on these medium tyres for his race simulation.
Still not able to find all that much pace. He's down in 14th right now. I don't think we'll see his times improve today, unfortunately, but his teammate at least has found a little bit more pace than himself out there today. Lance Stroll making his way through the second part of Spoon. He's exiting there at the moment through turn 14.
Yeah, so now he's finishing up his lap here, and it goes a 138.8, so it's a bit slow for race simulation times there. Same time as Bottas has just put in now. So he's about the same pace as the Alfa Romeos for race pace. That's a little bit concerning, I think. Tia now back in the comments saying, what's up? Hello. We've got 4 minutes left of the session. And yeah, lots of race simulations happening. We're not going to see these times get beaten, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, just confirming Stroll's time at 138.8 for that race.
Not horrific on those medium tyres. We're seeing for the Haas runners, they're running about a 140 for a medium tyre in the race simulations. We're watching Charles Leclerc going around the final 2 corners. He's going to start another hot lap. Verstappen is 0.35 seconds faster than Charles Leclerc, though, and he makes up the majority of their time in the first sector.
Well, we know that because the first sector time for Max Verstappen is so much quicker than the rest of the grid. Literally 0.6 or 0.5 seconds quicker than most. So really does tell you how much quicker the Red Bulls are in those high downforce areas of the track. As Leclerc goes a little bit wide there and coming around and starting his lap here on medium tyres as race simulation. He currently sits in second.
Yes, currently sitting in second behind the number one driver, Max Verstappen, currently also wearing that number one driver number for this season. Charles Leclerc, though, currently doing some race runs on those medium tyres. What can he do for his first sector? He's currently 3.8 off of Max Verstappen in that first sector. That is to be expected, though, on really high fuel runs.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Now, Leclerc coming towards the second sector, his time that he puts in is going to be...
Yellow flag.
Yellow flag. Would you have a yellow flag?
Gasly's stuck underneath that...
I told you. I said turn red flag.
Red flag.
Told you.
He's lost it there.
That turn 9 is always an issue. We're going to see now on the screen as it happens here. Let's see what happens to Pierre Gasly as the yellow flag is now shown on the screen. So we're going to see Pierre Gasly there in turn 9. I'm telling you right now, it's in that exact part of the track that we always
Yes, he is. He's in the wall.
Oh,
Pierre
my
Gasly
word.
has completely destroyed the front end of that car. Broken front left suspension.
And it's under the bridge.
And it is under the bridge. As we had expected, he may have just come through there with a little bit too much momentum, trying to take a little bit more pace into the final lap of this session. He's got 2 minutes left. But unfortunately, that is his session.
We just
pretty
panned
much
to
everyone else's session.
We just
over. I
panned
think that was Seb.
Seb, yeah, Sebastian Vettel there, and he puts his hands up, going, "What happened?" Basically saying, "Oh no, we've had an end to the session." Yeah, and indeed, red flag, and that's definitely going to be end of the session. Session will not be resumed. Race control has noted. So that is the end of the session, ladies and gentlemen. A rather poor end to the end of the session. I did say, will we have a yellow or red flag in the session?
And
we have done
in the last 2 minutes.
I'll tell you something. We're quite good commentators, aren't we? We called everything pretty much happened today. We said turn 9's been a problem. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw someone in the wall there. And it's a very difficult part of the track to get people under because obviously it's underneath the bridge. And what's happened right at the end here, we've seen a red flag, which is what we said would probably happen in the second sector, as well as underneath the bridge, which means that we cannot recover that car very easily. So that's a red flag. End to the session, ladies and gentlemen. And Gasly's really done a lot of damage to the car. He's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. It's not a huge high impact crash, but it will definitely be quite a lot of fixing for them. Watching a replay now, finally, as he comes into turn 9.
So as he approaches, comes through turn 7, through turn 8, high-speed right-hander. Car looks settled through there, then locks up on the entry into turn 9, goes onto the gravel, loses it on the rear end, hits the rear end into the barrier, then the front end just catches the barrier. Luckily, doesn't cause too much damage there, so yeah, just very unfortunate.
Wasn't going at too big a pace, but it just locks up, actually, and then, yeah.
Locks up onto the entry, gets it wrong, then unfortunately he gets sent into the gravel. From that moment onwards, he's a passenger, slides the car sideways, catches it on the rear left. Rear left causes him to spin around a little bit. Front left catches the barrier as well. And then that breaks that front left suspension. And that is his day over.
Yeah.
Alpine Garage and engineers looking quite frustrated there with Jack Doohan also watching onwards. The reserve driver there for Alpine and their driver in Formula 2. We are going to move over now into our review studio. Mark is just going to change the heading for that. But not that one.
Yeah.
Just getting that up here. Yeah, very, very exciting though. Thank you very much for watching us and joining us in this first practice session. We are going to be moving now over into our review studio. So we're going to move over into that right now.
Boom, look at that. We're all organized. So, ladies and gentlemen, Japan Free Practice 2. This is the review on Forever Motorsports. My name is Mark. Reece is alongside me, of course. We just finished there on a red flag, which we did call would happen, unfortunately. Pierre Gasly ending that session slightly early, going into the wall after locking up into turn 9, which has been a problem for lots of drivers in that session and today so far, and I think it will be a problem for the race weekend as a whole. But Max Verstappen once again dominant, a 130.688, Leclerc a 131.008, and Norris a 131.152. So Norris in third in the first session and the second session, Leclerc and Sainz swapping out in the first and second sessions. Leclerc this time a little bit faster than his teammate. Verstappen still in first after that first session, Reece.
It's really exciting to see so far that at the moment, of course, Max Verstappen is the only driver in the 130s, but the rest of the drivers we have from Charles Leclerc all the way down to Lewis Hamilton in 14th. They're all in the 131s. All in the 131. Well, the slowest 131 is Hamilton with a 131.8. And then you've got Charles Leclerc's time with a 131.008. So really competitive times out there at the moment and really close times. So I think qualifying is going to be very, very exciting for us tomorrow. Of course, just making our way through that top 10, Max Verstappen took that top spot there, with Charles Leclerc quite closely behind in second, Lando Norris then the first of the McLarens there in third. Carlos Sainz in fourth, George Russell in fifth, Fernando Alonso in sixth. Alex Albon seventh, having a great day out there in that Williams car. He got quite close to the top there in the middle of that free practice 2 session. Then Oscar Piastri in 8th, Sergio Perez in 9th, not finding all that much time out there on track today. Weird to see him quite far off the pace of his teammates. Then we have Valtteri Bottas finishing up top 10.
Yes, indeed. And then we go into our bottom 10. Lance Stroll in 11th position. Ocon in 12th. Hülkenberg in 13th. And Hamilton in 14th. The slowest of those 131 drivers. Then we move to the 132s. Liam Lawson, unfortunately, down in 15th. Zhou Guanyu in 16th. He had quite a lot of floor damage from turn 9 earlier and had to go into the pits. And they were working on the car. So, just shows turn 9 is definitely a problem for a lot of drivers. Magnussen in 17th. 18th is Tsunoda in his home Grand Prix. Not great for him there. Pierre Gasly, of course, after that red flag that he caused, crashing out in turn 9, trying to put some decent pace in. Finishes 19th. And Logan Sargeant down in 20th. His regular position. It's reserved for him. Poor man.
Yes, well, it's certainly looking like it's going to be a competitive day tomorrow. I'm certainly looking forward to FP3 and qualifying later on in the morning. But I think it's going to be very competitive. I don't think it's necessarily a given right now for Max Verstappen. Of course, he is very fast, but those Ferraris seem to be able to find quite a bit of pace. They're very close at the moment to the 130s, with Charles Leclerc only 0.008 off of a 130 time. But who do you think we'll see tomorrow taking the top of the timing boards? I think Max Verstappen will still take it, but those McLarens and the Ferraris are going to be very close.
Yeah, so I think Verstappen's going to take it. I'm sure the Ferrari, Charles Leclerc and Sainz will battle it out for second, and Norris will be there and thereabouts. Russell might also find a little bit of pace. Alonso as well, I'm hoping we'll find some more pace as well. But I do think it'll probably be Ferrari, and will probably be Red Bull, then 2 Ferraris. Now, interesting to note as well, we talk about Red Bull's Verstappen doing quite well, but look at the other side, being Sergio Perez. What's happening there?
Yes, it is very weird to see Sergio Perez off the pace, but it might just be these new upgrades. He didn't really like them in Singapore either. He might be struggling with them here. They might have to go back to the old spec car that he is a bit more comfortable with. I don't blame him. They are, of course, upgrading the car in a way that they see fit, and of course, it's Max Verstappen's team, so they are going to be moving in a direction that does possibly suit him a little bit better, and that might not be giving them a car that suits Sergio Perez's drivability standards. But we'll have to wait and see what happens throughout the rest of the weekend. I'm sure Sergio Perez will be able to find out some more pace. But nonetheless, really, really exciting for the rest of this weekend out here in Suzuka.
Yeah, indeed. So we've given our predictions. Please be sure to give your predictions as to what's going to happen in qualifying and, of course, in free practice 3 tomorrow as well. In the comments, go and comment down below. Who do you think is going to top qualifying, and give you reasons why and otherwise. And also, guys, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll be joining you, of course, for all the other sessions this weekend here in Suzuka, in Japan, of course. An exciting race weekend right ahead. Very early in the morning for us, but hopefully you guys will tune in and join us for it as well. You've been watching Forever Motorsports. I've been Mark. Reece has been alongside me. Thank you so much.